Chapter 1488. The mysterious woman was sucked into the burial void vortex. Long Yu didn't think she would die just like that. However, at this moment, something happened that surprised Long Yu. He felt that the connection between him and the netherworld dragon blade had become even closer. This feeling was something he hadn't felt ever since his fusion with the netherworld dragon blade had reached an unparalleled level, resulting in the birth of Little Void Spirit. Long Yu was overjoyed. Could it be? Soon, he was sure that it was. After such a long time, the netherworld dragon blade had finally awakened. Although it was only the first awakening stage, its power had more than doubled. Moreover, an awakening skill was born. However, this awakening skill was neither an offensive nor a defensive method. Instead, it was a passive method that allowed the nether void dragon blade to travel a further distance, almost 3 times its original distance. This allowed Long Yu to travel more than 3 times faster. Although it wasn't very useful in battle, it was still a good awakening skill. It was said that the first few awakening skills of a divine grade absolute beginning were passive. Only after reaching the 6th awakening stage would some active skills appear, such as attack or defense. Every divine grade absolute beginning was different. After the nether void dragon blade awakened to the first layer, its power had doubled. With a thought from Long Yu, it continuously pierced through the void and shot towards the mysterious woman. Void piercing was a skill that condensed water-type absolute beginning power into sharp spatial blades that could penetrate the opponent's body. The mysterious woman was already injured from the burial void. Now that she was bombarded by the void piercer, she looked extremely miserable. The 4 young masters of Jiangxiao were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "Hurry up and get rid of these 2 villains!" The 4 of them roared angrily. Finally, the restaurant's leader couldn't hold himself back any longer. He was a 6th phase great sovereign. He was prepared to personally attack Moon Song and Long Yu. An ominous glint appeared on his face as he charged towards Moon Song. His body was covered in berserk divine runes, and he looked even stronger than Long Yu. Long Yu had no reason to delay any longer. Looks like it's time to use this method, as Long Yu thought to himself. The blood-red meridians in his body finally started beating and expanding. The 8 extremities bloodlines that were originally blocked finally opened automatically after he released the restrictions. Because he had already been fighting for a long time, once he released the restrictions on the 8 extreme bloodline, the 8 extreme bloodline would immediately be able to open. Although this would cause Long Yu to lose more than he would gain, and he would need to spend a lot of money to repair the small world, he would just treat it as a first attempt. 3 of the 8 extremities bloodlines were directly opened, instantly allowing the power of the 3 extremities bloodlines to surge throughout his body, increasing his basic strength by more than 2-fold. It was equivalent to the effect of his berserk heavenly power being doubled in an instant. Facing the mysterious woman who was still struggling, Long Yu didn't hold back at all. The berserker fist cannon blasted toward her. This punch was the strongest punch Long Yu had ever unleashed. Due to the power of the punch, his physical body suffered an extremely strong backlash, causing his entire body to show signs of collapsing. However, when the punch landed on the mysterious woman's body, the mysterious woman did not seem to be able to resist at all and was sent flying. Her entire body seemed to be on the verge of collapsing as blood splattered all over the place. The berserker runes continued to wreak havoc in the mysterious woman's body. Her cultivation of the 5th phase Great Dominator realm didn't make her feel any better. Long Yu's current state was almost at the peak he had ever been in his life. The 3 8 extremities bloodlines had doubled his strength. Even though he needed 15 million Legion merit points to make up for the damage he caused in the small world, the effects of the 8 extremities bloodlines were still extremely shocking. These 15 million Legion merit points were definitely worth it. It was imaginable that when Long Yu reached the peak of the 7th phase Great Dominator realm, or even stepped into the demigod realm, Wouldn't he be able to surpass almost everyone else if he opened 8 extremities bloodlines? Unfortunately, Long Yu was still a little far from that level. However, this still showed how terrifying the 8 extremities bloodlines were. If I don't recover my true body, I'll be dead, Long Yu thought to himself. His eyes flashed with coldness as he strode in the direction of the mysterious woman. The woman flew and fell to the ground in the private room next door. The spectators in the private room were all 3rd or 4th phase great dominators. However, when they saw Long Yu walking over, they could only retreat. One reason was because they did not want to take part in this conflict, and the other reason was because Long Yu's presence was just too terrifying. The power of the Berserker's divine glyphs of Berserk made them feel extremely threatened. Didn't they see how this guy sent a 5th phase ruler beauty flying with a single punch? It could be seen that this guy was definitely not an ordinary person. What are you staring for? Finish him off. At this moment, young Master North Moon roared out hysterically. He wanted these people to help him take down Long Yu. You should recognize the first-class glory badge. Those who have no business here, leave. Long Yu coldly shouted as he swept his gaze over the group of people. As for the first-class honor badge, it had originally been on Moonsong's body. After discovering that it wasn't of much use, she had tossed it back into Long Yu's hands. Now that Long Yu had taken it out, the group of people in front of him immediately became obedient. They didn't dare to move carelessly as they all left the private room, allowing Long Yu to approach the mysterious woman. These people were not simple-minded people like the hired thugs in the restaurant. Which one of them could come to such a luxurious restaurant and rent a private room? Were they not smart people? Even young Master North Moon would not make them fight against a first-class glory badge. How could challenging the authority of a demigod be that fun? Not to mention that these people could already tell that something was off with the situation, so some of them left silently and rushed towards the office of the battlefield army in Jiangxia City. It was clear with a single glance that they wanted to report the situation and claim credit. As Jiangxia City was within the territory of the Lushan clan, the battlefield army only had a single office. There were not a lot of people stationed there, and they were usually only responsible for managing the battlefield army. However, there were still 7th phase rulers in the office. Now that the conflict was severe, it was very likely for them to receive some rewards if they reported it. The people fighting in the restaurant obviously had no idea about this. Long Yu walked over to the mysterious woman and continued to condense Berserker's divine glyphs of Berserker on his body. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman was covered in blood. She seemed pitiful, as if she had already lost all thoughts of fighting back. She just stared at Long Yu blankly. However, Long Yu obviously would not hold back against her. Just when he was about to strike, a yell rang out from the sky, "Stop! Your person is in our hands. If you dare to touch her, she's dead for sure." During the battle between Long Yu and the mysterious woman, the roof of the luxurious restaurant had already been blasted open. At this moment, everyone raised their heads and saw 2 7th phase rulers from the North Moon clan. They had actually arrived here with a woman as a hostage. The woman who had been taken hostage happened to be Red Oriole, who had remained in the North Moon clan. Red Oriole was obviously not their opponent against 7th phase rulers, so she just surrendered herself and was brought here. When she saw Long Yu, she nodded at him secretly, indicating that she was in no danger. Long Yu squinted his eyes. The 2 7th phase rulers seemed to be from the North Moon clan. Had they come to save young Master North Moon? But no matter what, they were actually bold enough to take Red Oriole hostage. They had already crossed Long Yu's bottom line. Vanish! Without any hesitation, Long Yu directly turned invisible and leapt to Red Oriole's side in the air with a flash. The force of the world enveloped her and directly sent her into his miniature world. He moved extremely quickly, and he did not give anyone any time to react. He directly saved Red Oriole. By the time the mysterious woman sensed that Long Yu had leapt into the air through the frigid aura, it was clearly already too late. After saving Red Oriole, Long Yu directly returned to where Moon Song was in his incorporeal state. Afterwards, he sent Moon Song into his miniature world as well. Otherwise, Moon Song would face far too much pressure when she faced the leader of the restaurant's thugs, as well as so many other thugs and the 4 young masters of Jiangxia. On the other hand, Long Yu's figure finally appeared once more after he placed them within his minor world. Moreover, he directly utilized the boundless seal and trapped the mysterious woman within it. The current situation was too complicated. If Long Yu wanted to deal with this mysterious woman, he would have to face too many obstructions. Therefore, he could only directly trap this mysterious woman, before dragging the realmless seal with him. With one hand, he pulled the realmless seal and flew far away. Our target is this thing. If you want to help the wicked and oppose the army on the battlefield, feel free to chase after us. Long Yu directly took the mysterious woman with him, and flew away from the planet. There was only one member of the Ice God clan's spy team here, so he could easily take her far away and deal with her later. Unfortunately, it was not as simple as that. After Long Yu took the mysterious woman away, the 4 young masters of Jiangxia all flew into a rage. Young Master North Moon even directly flew into the air and said to the 2 7th phase rulers of the North Moon clan, "Grandfather, father, that guy tried to use devious methods to take over our North Moon clan. We can't let him get away. How can we let him get away when he's bold enough to cause trouble in our Jiangxia city?" After him, the 7th phase rulers of the North Moon clan all snorted coldly and chased after where Long Yu had vanished. They directly derived the aura that Long Yu had left behind earlier. Chapter 1489. No one knew that the 4 young masters of Jiangxia had already been controlled. However, even if Long Yu told them this back then, no one would believe him, so he could not be bothered to say anything more. He directly captured the spy from the Ice God clan and left. Very soon, Long Yu used the Nether Dragon Dagger to directly pass through the space beyond the planet, arriving at the barrier in a split second. The North Moon clan of Jiangxia City was powerful, but they were not powerful enough to affect the entire planet. As a result, the protective barrier of the planet was unable to stop Long Yu's advance. The cultivators from the garrison let him through as soon as they saw the first-class honor badge. They did not delay at all. Afterwards, the power of divination from the 7th grade ruler of the North Moon clan descended upon Long Yu. After all, Long Yu had left in a hurry earlier, so he could not completely erase his presence that he had left behind. However, at this moment, Red Oriole directly used her secret martial arts technique. It was a powerful technique from the Blood Demon clan, increasing Long Yu's resistance to divination. Just like the Light of Equalization, which could increase a cultivator's senses by 10 times, Red Oriole's secret martial arts technique could also directly increase a cultivator's resistance to divination by 10 times when it was cultivated to the peak. Without a doubt, when Red Oriole used it like this, it would take even longer for the opponent to divine Long Yu's location, and it would consume even more divination power. Even a 7th grade ruler would not be able to divine Long Yu's location in a short amount of time, let alone the fact that the 2 powerful cultivators from the North Moon clan were not at the peak of 7th grade ruler. They had only become 7th grade rulers recently. However, both Long Yu and Red Oriole had overlooked one thing. One had to know that they were currently holding the Ice God clan's spy squad by their side. As for the mysterious woman from the Ice God clan's spy squad, Long Yu did not have the ability to directly send her into his micro-world to seal her up. Therefore, under the control of the mysterious woman, the 4 young masters of Jiangxia still clearly knew Long Yu's current location. As a result, very soon, the 4 young masters of Jiangxia led the way and chased after them with the 2 7th grade rulers of the North Moon clan. However, Long Yu did not care about this. Even if the other party knew his location, so what? Right now, the Nethervoid Dragon Blade had already awakened to the first stage. Although the awakening skill was passive, it increased the distance it could travel through the void by more than 3 times. In an instant, he could travel millions of kilometers. Even a 7th stage sovereign expert would not be able to catch up to the current Long Yu. Unless the other party had used the spacetime imprint that had been marked in advance to carry out the transmission. However, how could the other party be so coincidental as to mark the spacetime imprint near the path that Long Yu had taken? Very few people would waste a spacetime imprint to mark such a close distance. After all, to a 7th grade ruler, this was a distance that could be covered in a short amount of time. Long Yu did not care that much. Instead, he was more concerned about the mysterious woman in his hand. He was constantly on guard that she would return to her original form as an ice god. If that happened, it was very likely that she would become a 6th grade ruler. She should be waiting until she's far enough away from Jiangxia City before returning to her original form. After all, it's impossible for her to reveal the fact that she's an ice god in front of others. Otherwise, the big shots of Jiangxia City's North Moon clan will definitely turn around and eliminate her, Long Yu thought. From the perspective of the mysterious woman, she only had 2 choices right now. One of them was to try and delay Long Yu's speed so that the people of Jiangxia City could catch up. If that happened, Long Yu definitely would not be the opponent of a 7th grade ruler. The other choice was to wait until she was far enough away and return to her original form as an ice god. After that, she would directly kill Long Yu. As for where she would go after killing him, there was no need to pay attention to it. In any case, she could not return to Jiangxia City. After all, the fact that Long Yu could find Jiangxia City meant that someone in the human race had already noticed his existence. These 2 choices would depend on whether or not the 7th grade ruler of Jiangxia City could catch up. However, looking at the situation right now, it seemed rather uncertain. As a result, Long Yu was prepared to wait until he was far enough away before the mysterious woman suddenly transformed into a 6th grade ruler and attacked him. Once something like that happened, Long Yu would be able to react immediately. Very soon, as Long Yu constantly used spatial transference, the spatial nether dragon dagger took him extremely far away. He was already several 100 million kilometers away from the planet that Jiangxia City was on earlier in the blink of an eye. Even the 7th grade ruler of Jiangxia City's North Moon clan would not be able to catch up. This was because apart from Long Yu, even the powerhouses of Jiangxia City's North Moon clan would need a period of time to apply and be approved if they wanted to pass through the defensive barrier outside the planet and leave. After spending some time in that place, it would be impossible for them to catch up to Long Yu. Right now, Long Yu's surroundings were completely empty. There was nothing around him. From afar, he could see the origin of the divine runes closest to him, but it was already the size of a firefly. It was not much different from the stars in the distance. Now that he had arrived here, Long Yu was certain that the people of the North Moon clan would not be able to catch up to him. It's about time I'm exposed. Just as Long Yu was thinking about this, the mysterious woman that he had sealed with the boundless seal, who seemed to be seriously injured and on the verge of death, suddenly erupted with the power of ice divine runes, instantly shattering the boundless seal. Afterwards, an existence that resembled a hexagonal crystal shot out from the mysterious woman's body. A 6th grade ruler. Long Yu was already prepared. He retreated a certain distance without any hesitation before sending Red Oriole and Moon Song out of the miniature world. Just do it and finish him off, Long Yu bellowed. He raised his hand and unleashed the boundless grasp. The boundless grasp condensed from the heaven-tier divine runes of 9 serenities directly grabbed the ice god. Afterwards, a powerful sealing power blocked the flow of power within his body, preventing him from using any techniques for the time being. Although the difference in cultivation between Long Yu and the ice god was too great, and the boundless grasp's sealing effect on his power was very weak, it could still seal him for a split second. That split second was already enough. Demonic Shadowbind. Red Oriole unleashed a high-grade unbounded martial skill right after that. She had already cultivated this move to perfection, and if she advanced one more step, she would be able to transcend. Unfortunately, she was still unable to reach that level for now. However, despite this, when she used this technique, countless blood-red monstrous aura emanated from her body, forming countless chains of monstrous aura that completely locked down the Ice God race ruler. The Ice God quickly broke free from Long Yu's boundless grasp, but was immediately bound by the boundless chains of demonic Shadowbind. He had no chance to dodge or move, and the power within his body was completely sealed by the blood-red demonic chi. This sealing technique was even stronger than Long Yu's boundless grasp. Most importantly, Red Oriole was 2 levels higher than Long Yu in the martial path, which was why it had such a shocking effect. Starry Space Shattering Slash. While the Ice God was trapped by the Shadowbind, Moon Song did not waste any time. She immediately unleashed her awakening skill of the Divine Absolute beginning rank 11 awakening skill, Starry Sky Breaking Slash. The power of the stars instantly condensed into a space-breaking blade and slashed at the Ice God's head. Under the binding of the blood-red Yao Qi, the Ice God could only watch as the star slashed through the air towards its body. However, it still had a way to deal with it. It suddenly unleashed a burst of frigid ice force, slightly dispelling the blood-red Yao Qi binding its body. Immediately after, his position slightly deviated, and the star-breaking sky slash directly cut off a corner of his body. However, it did not cause any serious injuries. Clearly, he had just barely avoided a vital point. Then, the power of the Ice Divine Text enveloped the Ice God's body, and the edges and corners of its body that had been cut off began to recover. Long Yu could tell that it was a method to reconstruct the body, so he immediately took action. Berserk God's Walk. Berserk Fist Cannon. Long Yu used 2 moves in a row. At this moment, although he had been running for a while, he still maintained the power of nearly 100 layers of Berserk God's runes. After using these 2 moves, he instantly punched the Ice God's body. The Ice God had never expected that a little guy in the 2nd stage Great Sovereign Realm would dare to attack him after he had transformed into a 6th stage Great Sovereign Realm existence. Caught off guard, the Ice God's body was hit by the fist. Several cracks appeared on the Ice God's hexagonal crystal body. The power of the Berserk God's runes invaded the Ice God's body and continued to wreak havoc. Long Yu was also pushed back by the power of the Ice God's runes. The power of ice corroded Long Yu's body. However, Long Yu did not hesitate at all. He directly blew up the part of his body that was corroded by the cold energy. Then, he relied on the Devil Dust Heart to reconstruct it. Such a method was practically unimaginable for ordinary people. Even Red Oriole and Moon Song hadn't expected Long Yu to be so decisive. If Long Yu didn't detonate the parts of his body that had been corroded by the cold air would likely spread to his entire body. If that happened, the Demon Dust Heart would also be corroded, and that wouldn't be fun. If it were anyone else, not only would they not be so decisive, but they would also lose a lot of their combat strength. However, Long Yu didn't have such concerns. This was because the part of his body that he had self-destructed had been reconstructed in the span of a few breaths. One must know that there were dozens of mysterious patterns imprinted in his mind, increasing the speed at which the Demon Dust Heart's body was reconstructed. In 3 breaths' time, the reconstruction of the body was completed, and Long Yu immediately punched out. Berserk Fist Cannon. With nearly 100 layers of Berserk heavenly power and 3 extreme bloodlines, Long Yu's body couldn't withstand the power of this punch, and it started to show signs of collapse. Chapter 1490. Long Yu executed the Berserker's divine steps, and his figure flashed like a stream of light. In the next moment, he appeared beside the Ice God. The Ice God had just been punched, and cracks had begun to appear on his body. He wanted to dodge subconsciously, but how could he make it in time? Long Yu's berserker battle power had been stacked more than 70 times, and the speed of the berserker's divine steps had almost reached the limit. It could be said that it was faster than teleportation, and it didn't have a warning like teleportation. Once the ice god discovered Long Yu's figure, it would be too late to dodge. The berserker fist cannon blasted out and landed on the ice god's body, causing the cracks on the ice god's body to widen. The ice god was obviously the type that excelled in self-recovery, but he couldn't recover in time. After 3 consecutive punches from Long Yu, his physical body was already showing signs of collapsing. Long Yu didn't show any mercy. Just as he was about to continue punching, the ice god's body suddenly bloomed with cold air, and a psychic power shot towards Long Yu. Unfortunately, the power of the pure world physique flashed on the surface of Long Yu's body, and it directly blocked the psychic attack. This is the psychic power used to control the 4 young masters of Jiangxia, right? Long Yu narrowed his eyes and thought to himself. His fist didn't stop at all, and he directly punched out. This punch directly penetrated the cracks on the ice god's body, and the ice god's body began to collapse. 4 symbols death prison. Finally, Long Yu raised his hand and countless death lines appeared in the void, completely entangling the ice god. The death aura constantly spread and eroded his body. At the same time, Red Oriole's demon shadow binding was activated again, and blood-red demonic aura bound the ice god, making it impossible for him to move and resist Long Yu's 4 symbols death prison. When the ice god clan was exposed, even with the cultivation of a 6-phase great ruler, he was only able to hold on for a moment before being killed by Long Yu and the others. One had to know that they had joined hands to deal with a 5th-stage sovereign before. Moreover, they had dealt with them with extreme ease. Now that they had both advanced a level in the martial path, the Ice God clan's 6th-stage sovereign realm expert was naturally not their opponent. Killed, 1 less target. Should we go back to Jiangxia City to take a look? Red Oriole asked Long Yu. The ice god was entangled by the deathly lines of the 4 symbols killing prison. Under the corrosion of the deathly aura, he quickly lost his life force. The remaining ice body was shattered by Long Yu's berserker fist cannon, leaving behind only the mark of his small world. The remains of his small world could be sold for a lot of money. What Red Oriole was thinking about was whether she should return to Jiangxia City and see if the 4 young masters of Jiangxia had been freed from their controlled state. After all, no one knew the means of the Ice God clan. What if the mind control had not been lifted? Long Yu nodded in response. Let's go back and take a look. We can also sell the remains of this small world. He narrowed his eyes. If the 4 young masters of Jiangxia had already been released from their controlled state, then it was obvious that they already knew that they were being controlled. Then, they would definitely be very worried about the matter of Long Yu. As the saying went, it would be a waste not to take advantage of an opportunity. Long Yu would not let go of this opportunity. After killing the Ice God clan, Long Yu collected the remains of its corpse. Then, he brought Moon Song and Red Oriole back to Jiangxia City. They still had to deal with the other Ice God clan spies as soon as possible, so they could not stay here for too long. However, they still had time to sell the remains of the Ice God clan's small world. Moreover, the chaos in Jiangxia City would eventually come to an end. If Long Yu left just like that, he would feel very uncertain if he did not ascertain the situation of the 4 young masters of Jiangxia. It would be bad if the Ice God clan had left something else behind in Jiangxia City. Very soon, Long Yu returned to the vicinity of the planet. He passed through the defensive barrier and landed in Jiangxia City. He arrived at the luxurious restaurant at the edge of the coastal city. He could see from afar that the restaurant had already been destroyed after the intense battle earlier. At this moment, there were many people gathered beside the luxurious restaurant, discussing something. Long Yu saw them with a single glance. the 2 7th-grade sovereigns of the North Moon clan and the 4 young masters of Jiangxia. He could tell that the 4 young masters of Jiangxia's eyes were filled with confusion. They had probably just been freed from the mind control. When Long Yu saw them, they obviously saw Long Yu flying over as well. It's him. The expressions of the Patriarch and the Grand Patriarch of the North Moon clan changed. Afterwards, they flew towards Long Yu in a hurry without even thinking about it. Long Yu did not sense any hostility from them, so he secretly sighed in relief. If they still did not understand the situation, it would become rather troublesome. They would probably have to waste a lot of time here. However, they clearly knew about Long Yu's identity and what they had just gone through. This was because the 4 young masters of Jiangxia had suddenly recovered their senses. Although they were still rather confused, they had already roughly explained what had happened. "Young master, please forgive us." The 2 7th-grade sovereigns of the North Moon clan directly admitted their mistakes as soon as they arrived. "We were bewitched by the demoness earlier, so please forgive us, young master. Fortunately, we didn't commit any grave mistakes. We hope you can forgive our ignorance, young master." As it turned out, although they already had a rough idea, they did not know that the mysterious woman was actually an ice god. They only knew that she was a demoness who wanted to control the entire Jiangxia city, and the 4 young masters of Jiangxia became the mysterious woman's breakthrough point. The mysterious woman had been here for 4 days, and she would return with one of them each day. Afterwards, she would take the opportunity to use mental control techniques to control them. After 4 days, the 4 young masters of Jiangxia had all fallen under her mental control, becoming the mysterious woman's most loyal subordinates. However, following the mysterious woman's death, the 4 young masters of Jiangxia gradually recovered and recalled what they had encountered earlier. "The woman's true form is a 6th-grade ice god. We've just destroyed her and obtained the remains of her miniature world, so we've come here to sell the remains. Do you have any places that purchase the remains of miniature worlds?" Long Yu asked nonchalantly. Since they knew they were in the wrong, he should put on an act and try to obtain even more from them. After all, they had laid their hands on him, and he was someone who possessed a first-class honor badge. If he reported them, the 4 great organizations of Jiangxia City would be in deep trouble. The remains of a 6th-grade ice god's miniature world. The Grand Master of the North Moon Prefecture immediately said sternly, "Our North Moon Prefecture just happens to be interested in purchasing this recently. Since you've obtained it, you can directly sell it to our North Moon Prefecture. If we calculate it according to the battlefield army contribution, it'll be 30 million. May I ask if you're satisfied with this price, young master?" With that, the expression of the current Grand Master of the North Moon Prefecture immediately changed slightly. 30 million battlefield army contribution was equivalent to half a year of the North Moon Prefecture's total income. Were they supposed to use it to purchase the remains of a useless miniature world? Even though it was very possible for them to find some precious items in the miniature world's remains, it would be very difficult for them to recoup the 30 million battlefield army contribution. However, the current Grand Master of the North Moon Prefecture said nothing. Instead, he chose to listen to his father. He nodded. "Sir, you should be able to accept this price. After all, it's impossible to sell it for this price no matter where you go." Just when Long Yu had activated his 8 extremities bloodline in the battle, he had lost 15 million. If they compensated him with 30 million, that would mean Long Yu had made a net profit of 15 million. If they split it evenly between the 3 of them, that would be 5 million each. To them, this was not much at all. Just as Long Yu was considering whether he should agree or not, a voice suddenly rang out from one side. "Hee, North Moon Prefecture, you sure are bold. You're actually bold enough to lay your hands on a hero with a first-class honor badge. Do you know what the crime is?" Following these words, another 7th phase ruler flew over from the side. This was the Battlefield Legion's office in Jiangxia City. Normally, they didn't care much about matters, and they would only recruit cultivators who were interested to join the battlefield legion. Now, the leader of the office had appeared before everyone, and he said something like that as soon as he appeared, which made the expressions of the father and son from the North Moon Prefecture change. This guy was not to be trifled with. Long Yu turned his head and discovered that it was a human cultivator with the appearance of a middle-aged man with an unkempt beard. He was a 7th-grade ruler, and he bore the symbolic insignia of the battlefield army. His identity could be identified with a single glance. To be honest, nothing really happened. Even if they wanted to lay their hands on me, they were bewitched by the foreign races. Long Yu glanced at the person and smiled indifferently. Afterwards he said, "It's just that the price." With that, the two of them understood what Long Yu meant. This was not because Long Yu was abusing his power for personal gain. Instead, they had indeed caused him quite a lot of trouble when he carried out his training missions. Moreover, he had activated his 8 extremities bloodline in this battle, so he suffered quite a lot of losses. If he could recover as much as he could, then he would. Moreover, the fragment of the miniature world from the Ice God clan might actually contain something good. A price of 30 million was indeed not particularly high. If there were a few heavenly crystal-grade creations in there, then he would earn it all back in a single stroke. 50 million. That's the final price. Our North Moon Prefecture can still accept this price. What do you think, sir? The Grand Chief of the North Moon Prefecture insisted on the price. He really could not increase the price any further, or the entire North Moon Prefecture would be in great trouble. Sure, it's a deal then. Long Yu squinted his eyes and nodded. Chapter 1491. The remains of a 6-phase ruler Ice God clan's miniature world were sold for 50 million. It was definitely an astronomical price. However, if they were lucky, the North Moon Prefecture could still make a profit. Long Yu did not feel like he was screwing them over. After all, they had caused him quite a lot of trouble. They had even forcefully unlocked his 8 extremities bloodline and caused some damage to his miniature world. To Long Yu, obtaining 50 million battlefield army merit points in one go could be considered as compensation. Since Long Yu said it was fine, the head of the battlefield army's office, who had rushed over obviously, did not pursue the matter any further. Long Yu glanced at the unshaven head of the office before transferring 5 million to him in private. After all, if it were not for him, Long Yu might have even accepted the 30 million the other party had offered. Giving 5 million meant that he did not owe the other party a favor. After settling everything, Long Yu, Moon Song, and Red Oriole left right away. They were still in a hurry to get rid of the other Ice God clan's spy teams. They had no idea where they were hiding or what kind of existences they had disguised themselves as. Logically speaking, if the Ice God clan had not exposed itself, Long Yu would not have been able to tell it was an ice god from its appearance at all. This made Long Yu rather admire the Ice God's methods. If the other Ice God clan spy teams were as powerful as them, it would really take a very long time for Long Yu and the other two to find and eliminate them all. Sure enough, the reward of 60 million battlefield army contribution points was not so easy to earn. Fortunately, they could still earn some extra money during this mission. With Red Oriole's power of deduction, the three of them quickly moved on to the next target. According to Red Oriole's current deduction, there were a total of 6 targets of the Ice God clan that they needed to eliminate in this training mission. They had just killed one of them, so there were still 5 left. If they were just dealing with 5 ice gods, it would not be difficult for the 3 of them at all. However, they had to find the ice gods if they wanted to eliminate them. Since they were extremely skilled at disguising and hiding, it would take a lot of effort to find them. Even though Red Oriole's deduction abilities were extremely powerful, she could only narrow down the target's range to a radius of 5 kilometers at most. Following that, the 3 of them moved as quickly as they could, rushing to the nearest location that Red Oriole had deduced. That place was not on some planet but in the void. It was obvious what was in the void. However, when Long Yu and the others arrived, they could not see anything at all in this void. It was clear that the other party had used some sort of method to hide in the void. In any case, the distance that he had deduced was within 10 li. This method of concealment was not much inferior to Long Yu's incarnation of nothingness. Regardless of whether it was the power of deduction or the perception of spiritual sense, he could not detect the existence of the other party. It was only when the member of the Ice God clan's spy squad took the initiative to launch a sneak attack on Long Yu, intending to kill Long Yu, that Long Yu and the others finally discovered the other party's whereabouts. However, it had to be said that the other party had taken the initiative to launch a sneak attack on Long Yu. This was undoubtedly an extremely wrong decision. When Long Yu arrived at this region of space, he was already prepared for any unexpected situations that might occur. Even if he was to suffer a sneak attack, he would immediately transform into nothingness, evading the barrage of ice spikes shot over by the other party. Those ice spikes were extremely tyrannical, and even with the strength of Long Yu's physique, he would most likely be smashed into smithereens. Even if Long Yu had the devil dust heart and could continuously reconstruct his physical body, he did not want his body to be casually shattered by others. When the other party launched a sneak attack and Long Yu turned into nothingness, Red Oriole reacted at the fastest speed. She quickly displayed the demon shadow bind martial technique. Countless blood-red demonic auras were like ropes, binding the Ice God clan expert that had appeared in the void, making it unable to move for a moment. The Ice God clan obviously did not expect Long Yu to be able to react so quickly. It had to be known that its sneak attack was extremely close to Long Yu, and it could completely shatter Long Yu in an instant. Long Yu directly turned into nothingness, foiling the Ice God clan's sneak attack plan and causing it to be trapped by Red Oriole's demon shadow bind martial technique. Starry Sky Breaking Slash. Moon Song did not idle around either. She directly displayed the awakening skill of the 11th awakening level. The starry sword light fell from the sky, shattering the void, and instantly fell on the head of the Ice God clan. The terrifying destructive power of the starry divine characters caused a slight crack to appear on the Ice God clan's body, but it did not affect it much. Even the Starry Sky Breaking Slash could not hurt the Ice God clan too much. Moreover, the Ice God clan's opponent was restrained by the demon shadow binding restriction and couldn't use the power of the divine characters in his body. Otherwise, he could have easily used a defensive divine ability to block the Starlight Sky Breaking Slash. After all, the Ice God clan's opponent was a 6th-stage Sovereign Realm expert. Moreover, he was no ordinary 6th-stage Sovereign Realm expert. At this time, Long Yu had also recovered. He had only turned into nothingness for a few breaths' time. When the Starry Sky Breaking Slash fell, he also recovered from the state of nothingness. Immediately after, the Boundless Grasp directly rumbled towards the Ice God clan. Void Burial, go! The Boundless Grasp and the Demon Shadowbind, these two control techniques trapped the Ice God clan, making it impossible for the Ice God clan to escape in a short period of time. Immediately after, Long Yu ordered Little Void to activate the Void Burial. Water-type Absolute Beginning Power instantly erupted near the Ice God clan. The Void Nether Dragon Blade had already awakened the first level, so the power of the Void Burial had at least doubled. At this moment, the Water-type Absolute Beginning Power that erupted from the Void Burial was like a real tomb, burying the Ice God clan within it. The Ice God clan's 6th-stage Sovereign Realm did not expect Long Yu and the others to attack wave after wave. Before it could even display its power, it was already sucked into the Void Burial. Countless cracks appeared on its hexagonal ice crystal body. It was obvious that it was heavily injured. Fortunately, its physical body was relatively strong, so these injuries were not fatal. Moreover, as the Ice Divine characters surged out from its body, the injuries on its body quickly began to heal. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. It seems that if I want to deal with a 6th stage sovereign expert, I'll have to rely on the Berserker divine characters. Long Yu felt a bit disappointed. After all, his martial realm was still too low. The difference in basic strength between a 2nd stage sovereign and a 6th stage sovereign was close to 100 times. It was already very difficult for him to injure the Ice God clan's opponent with ordinary methods, let alone kill it. Meanwhile, Moon Song and Red Oriole had already given it a try. Among them, if Red Oriole's demon Shadowbind was 2 or 3 times stronger, she could completely bind the Ice God clan's opponent for a period of time, during which it would be unable to use its power. However, Red Oriole's other means of attack, including those innate magics, awakening skills, and so on, she had tried all of her strongest means, but she was unable to cause much damage to the Ice God. She could only leave some scars on the surface of its body. Moon Song was the same. She cultivated an unbounded high-grade martial technique, 9 Firmaments Star Flash. It wasn't an offensive technique, but a movement martial technique. It mainly increased her agility, but it didn't increase the power of her attack. Her strongest attack was the 11th stage awakening skill, Star-Piercing Slash. However, even the Star-Piercing Slash couldn't break through the Ice God clan's experts' defenses. From this, it could be seen that the Ice God clan's experts' physical defense was extremely strong. It was much stronger than the previous one. An opponent like this was undoubtedly the most difficult for Long Yu and the others to deal with, because they didn't have enough power. Their other methods weren't a problem, but if they lacked absolute power, they wouldn't be able to break through the Ice God clan's physical defense. This situation was quite troublesome. If they wanted to deal with this Ice God clan's expert, Long Yu would have a chance of killing it by stacking the Berserker heavenly power to more than 100 stages. It was no wonder that the Ice God race was so daring as to launch a sneak attack on Long Yu. It was because it was very confident in the strength of its fleshly body. In any case, the 2nd and 4th stage dominators were unable to kill it. Even if its sneak attack failed, it wouldn't suffer any losses. First, Long Yu tried the 3rd stage of the Unbounded Grasp. He unleashed the power of revelation-grade divine runes within his opponent's body. However, his opponent's body was protected by an extremely powerful ice barrier. Even after unleashing the power from within his opponent's body, he was unable to harm his opponent in the slightest. Looks like I can only drag it out. Long Yu felt a little frustrated. If they needed to stack Battle Heaven's power to 100 times every time to defeat their opponents, then even if the 3 of them were to advance another level in the martial Tao, they wouldn't have a good ending if they headed to the Eroding Moon ancient region. They had to cultivate some extremely powerful attack skills. At this time, Long Yu brazenly activated the Berserker God's Descent, and the aura of the Berserker divine characters on his body began to rise. At the same time, dozens of primordial shadows appeared in the field and blasted the Berserker Fist Cannon at the Ice God clan member. They could stack the Berserker heavenly power on Long Yu's body. At the same time, Red Oriole unleashed her strongest innate divine ability. Crimson Whip shadows rained down. Each whip shadow had the effect of burning one's soul. This was the transformation she had undergone after fusing with the essence of Wood Elemental Genesis. The Ice God clan member's physical strength was very high, but the strength of its soul was only SOSO. Faced with Red Oriole's soul-burning attack, it had no choice but to focus all its attention on resisting the blood-colored whips. This way, Long Yu had enough time to stack the Berserker heavenly power. Moon Song also assisted from the side. She constantly used the Scattered Stars' 2nd grade god formation, as well as some other control-type martial skills with the divine characters of the stars, to constantly harass the Ice God clan member. The ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda appeared in Long Yu's hands. Then, he quietly set up the Absolute Space Domain, making it impossible for the Ice God clan member to escape. As Long Yu's Berserker heavenly power stacked up more and more, the Ice God clan member also felt the threat from Long Yu. Unfortunately, it was too late. Chapter 1492. Fighting the Heavenly Power Level 100, Long Yu directly punched the Ice God into pieces. Together with Red Oriole's blood-red whip and Moon Song's starry sky-piercing slash, they easily crushed the Ice God into pieces. Even its soul was completely shattered. After taking the remains of the small world, the three of them left this place and rushed to the next location. 7 days passed very quickly. The three of them did not stop at all. Although they encountered some difficulties during this period, in the end, just like the Ice God in Jiangxia City, they killed the 6 Ice God spies that they had deduced. The entire training mission took a lot of time. In terms of efficiency, it could not be said to be very fast. However, this mission also allowed them to obtain the remains of 6 small worlds of the Ice God clan, all of which were 6th phase great sovereigns. The first one from Jiangxia City was sold to the North Moon Prefecture for 50 million. As for the remaining 5 small world remains of the Ice God clan, Long Yu and the others planned to keep them for themselves. Now, they did not lack battlefield merit. Instead, they lacked some special resources, which they might be able to obtain from these small world remains. Therefore, it was better to keep them. Anyway, according to the normal price, they could not be sold for too much money. A few million for one would be the limit. No one would spend tens of millions to buy a small world's remains, because the probability of losing money was too high. Of course, Long Yu and the others did not have time to enter the small world remains to search. They could only stay and wait until they reached the eroding moon ancient region. After cleaning up the 6 Ice God clan spies one by one, Long Yu and the others completely eliminated the spies. When they returned to the Demigod Academy, they found that the mission had indeed been completed. Otherwise, they would have been afraid that they had missed out on some of them. With 60 million battlefield merits in hand, each of them got 20 million. Immediately afterward, they directly exchanged all the battlefield merits in the Demigod Academy for heavenly crystal-level creations. They could complete the training mission while absorbing the creation power in these creations to slowly increase their martial realm cultivation. This way, it would be easier for them to adapt to the increase in their cultivation. After all, if they wanted to make another breakthrough, their cultivation was the most important. Only by improving their basic strength would they be able to deal with the powerful 7th stage sovereign realm experts in the eroding moon ancient region. At that time, their competitors wouldn't just be the Ice God clan and the Fire God clan, but there would also be more than 140 foreign races from the other 2-star field. Competing in the eroding moon ancient region would be extremely dangerous. The martial Dao realm should be improved as much as possible. This was the fundamental guarantee of one's combat strength. For the next mission, the three of them chose to fight against foreign races that were at the 6th phase Great Ruler realm. None of them were too difficult. Foreign races with powerful bodies like the 2nd Ice God race were rare among the 6th phase Great Rulers. Moon Song and Red Oriole were able to take care of them by teaming up. Only when there were more opponents, or when the opponent was stronger than a normal 6th phase dominator, would Long Yu choose to stack the Wild Battle Heavenly Power as his final trump card against the opponent. There were less than 2 months left until the end of the academic year. The three of them should be able to earn around 50 million battle merit points each. After all, their combat strength had increased, and their efficiency in defeating foreign races had increased by quite a bit. Moreover, their experience in dealing with different kinds of alien races had also increased. During this period of time, the three of them continuously absorbed the creation power in the creations. Then, their small worlds continuously expanded. Just 7 days before the end of the academic year, the three of them all increased their martial realms. Long Yu went from 2nd phase Great Ruler to 3rd phase Great Ruler. Moon Song and Red Oriole went from 4th phase Great Ruler to 5th phase Great Ruler. The three of them increased their strength further. Normal 7th phase Great Rulers wouldn't be their opponent. Only a few stronger 7th phase Great Ruler experts could fight against the three of them. Of course, if their opponent was a peak 7th phase Great Ruler, the three of them wouldn't be a match for them even if they teamed up. They could only rely on various methods to temporarily avoid the brunt of their attacks. Long Yu had the ability to transform into nothingness. In the eroding moon ancient region, he couldn't transform into nothingness with the two women at the same time. At that time, Moon Song would be able to use the unbounded high-grade martial skill, 9 Firmament Star Flash, and Red Oriole would be able to use the Thousand Gates Soul Lock God formation to trap the opponent and escape. Moon Song had already cultivated 9 Firmaments Star Flash to perfection 2 months ago. During this period of time, she often used this technique in battle. Not only could she quickly teleport, but she could also use the power of the stars to trap the opponent for a period of time. At this moment, 9 Firmaments Star Flash had already reached a transcendent realm. It had a function similar to Long Yu's 9 Netherworlds path, which allowed her to ignore certain spatial barriers and teleport. Of course, the 9 Netherworld path's ability to disintegrate spatial divine runes was something that Star Flash in the firmament could never possess. However, just this alone made Star Flash in the firmament extremely powerful. It could often allow Moon Song to escape. Most importantly, Star Flash in the 9 firmaments could bring others with it. In other words, Moon Song and Red Oriole could move together. After activating Star Flash in the 9 firmaments, Long Yu would transform into nothingness and follow the two women. Although they couldn't deal with peak 7th phase great rulers, they had enough methods to stay alive. That was enough. At the very least, they were qualified to enter the eroding moon ancient region. If they could obtain some fortuitous encounters in the eroding moon ancient region and increase their martial realm, the three of them would be able to fight against most of the foreign races. After all, the three of them working together was much stronger than 1+1. After the three of them increased their martial realm, they accepted some relatively simple missions to deal with 7th phase great rulers. They completed 3 missions in 7 days, and all of them were relatively easy. Moreover, they were rewarded with a lot of battlefield army merit. Each of them received 8 million battlefield army merits from these 3 missions. Then, the academic year of the Demigod Academy ended. Students would be graded according to the number and quality of completed missions. The Demigod Academy would give rewards to the students with the highest scores. Long Yu didn't have much expectations for this. After all, the missions they accepted at the beginning were all low-level ones. The scores and quality of the missions weren't very high. In terms of quality, Long Yu and the other two had only completed 2 missions. One of them was the mission to deal with the Soul Race, and the other was the mission to clean up the Ice God Clan's spy team. These 2 missions were a bit difficult and they should have received a lot of points. 3 days before the end of the academic year, all the missions were taken back. No one could accept any more missions, but the ones they had accepted before could still be completed. On the day the academic year officially ended, everyone was notified to gather in the mission hall. Long Yu and the other two had just completed their last mission on this day. They returned and gathered in the hall after submitting their mission. After a year, many students in the Demigod Academy had changed. In particular, Long Yu noticed that the twin demon races male and female duo, Tian Qingxue and Tian Qingma, had already become great sovereign realm existences. Of course, the two of them originally had low martial Dao realms, so they were still inferior to Long Yu. Both of them were at the 2nd stage Great Sovereign Realm, which was already very fast. This time, the two of them definitely wouldn't be able to go to the eroding moon ancient region. Even though some experts from the Imperial Wind faction would usually bring them to complete some training missions, the eroding moon ancient region wasn't a place that could be brought by experts. If they weren't careful, even those experts would become ghosts in the hands of the mutated race, let alone these two. 2nd phase Great Sovereigns definitely wouldn't be able to go. This was something Long Yu was sure of. Going would be suicide. Even a 2nd phase Great Sovereign like Long Yu wouldn't dare go, let alone other people. Only people who had become 3rd phase Great Sovereigns would want to try. Imperial Wind, Frost, and the members of the Demigod Academy's two factions stood in different areas of the hall, forming a clear contrast. Long Yu looked around and discovered that the number of experts in the two factions was about the same. There were about 37th Phase Great Dominator experts each, and they formed the backbone of the Demigod Academy's students' combat power. In other words, in the entire Demigod Academy, there were around 60 people who could fight against Consort Yu. Of course, it was hard to say who would win in the end. Imperial Wind and Frost, the two of them were able to become the leaders of their respective factions because of their strength. Although they were both at the peak of the 7th phase, there were still some differences in their battle strength. The main reason was that most people specialized in different areas. Fighting, patrolling, sensing, hiding, etc. They all had different methods. The methods they used in battle were also different. After reaching peak 7th phase Great Sovereigns, one's battle strength couldn't be compared to their basic strength. Aside from a few people who were still in the middle of a mission and hadn't returned, everyone else had already arrived. Long Yu saw that Green Shadow and Blue Hawk were also standing with the Imperial Wind faction. The two of them glanced at Long Yu. Clearly, they had a deep impression of Long Yu. In the center of that planet, the two of them had almost been killed by a strange mutated race. If it weren't for Long Yu summoning the 9 Hell Tablet, Green Shadow and Blue Hawk most likely wouldn't have lived until now. I heard that quite a few people died this year. Yeah, it seems that because the eroding moon ancient region is about to open, the mutated race's activities have become more frequent. They've even set up quite a few traps. I heard that it was a small team of peak 7th phase sovereigns. They were ambushed by the mutated race and were completely annihilated. All 4 of them died. What a pity! Everyone was discussing amongst themselves. The most discussed topic was undoubtedly the annihilation of the small team that had been ambushed. Chapter 1493. Long Yu didn't know about this at first, but he soon learned about it from the discussions of the people around him. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. That 7th phase peak sovereign team was a member of the Imperial Wind faction. Long Yu had heard of their name before. They had a total of 4 people, but now they had all died in the ambush of the foreign races. It was a great pity. In a battle between races, even a 7th phase peak sovereign could be directly killed. Because they were close to demigods, they were even easier targets for the foreign races to assassinate. This was also a kind of helplessness. Long Yu didn't know if he would have been able to survive in that kind of situation. But if he was a 7th phase peak sovereign, he should have a way to deal with those foreign races, right? He wasn't sure about this. In any case, he had to be more careful when he moved around in the future. He might be ambushed by the foreign races at any time. Not long after, the demigod Gaudi appeared in front of everyone. Her expression was somewhat grave. It was clear that the annihilation of the 7th phase peak sovereign realm team had given her a lot of pressure. It was clear that the foreign races had increased their ambushes and assassinations of the human and demon races experts. First of all, I have something to inform everyone. The demigod Gaudi first repeated this matter, then said, "This is also to remind everyone to be more cautious when you're outside. If anything strange happens, you must be on guard." Next, we will first summarize the mission completion rate of this school year. As the demigod Gaudi spoke, he raised his hand and threw out a jade slip. The jade slip floated in the air, then projected a scene in the air. On it was written the completion rate of each student's mission. As expected, the mission completion rate reward had nothing to do with Long Yu and the others. Even though the 3 of them had completed 2 special missions, they were still ranked in the 30s. There was still a long way to go before they could receive the reward for being in the top 20. However, Long Yu and the others hadn't been looking forward to this in the first place, so they didn't feel disappointed. On the contrary, they were looking forward to the upcoming auction, especially the soul-connecting wine. However, this time, Long Yu and the others didn't plan on bidding for it because they didn't want the special effects of the Devil Dust Heart to be known to the public. So, before this, Long Yu and the others asked Frost to bid for it for them. This way, other people wouldn't think that Frost wanted to drink it herself. Instead, they would think that Frost wanted to buy it for the new students of the next school year. The person with the highest number of missions was Frost. She had completed more than 3 times the number of missions that Long Yu and the others had completed. Furthermore, she had completed all of them by herself. From this, it could be seen that Frost's strength was indeed much stronger than Long Yu and the others. In the entire Demigod Academy, she could be considered one of the best. The second was Imperial Wind, the leader of the 2 major factions. Not only was he extremely strong, his efficiency in completing training missions was also very high. The first place would be rewarded with 300 million army merit points, the second place would be rewarded with 200 million, the third place would be rewarded with 100 million, and the 4th to 10th place would be rewarded with 60 million army merit points. The rewards were very generous, but it was a pity that this had nothing to do with Long Yu. Right now, Long Yu and the others had a total of 100 million army merit. It was definitely enough to buy the soul-connecting wine. On top of that, they could also buy a few items of creation and continuously absorb the power of creation. They could try to expand their little world before the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region officially opens. If they were lucky, they might even be able to increase their realm. That way, their chances of entering the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region would be even higher. However, the chances of Long Yu reaching the 4th phase of the Dominator realm before entering the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region wasn't very high, so there was no need to try and fight for it. The Demigod Extravagant announced the ranking of this year's missions and gave out the rewards. Then, the end-of-the-year auction began. First was the same batch of 12 bottles of soul-connecting wine. This time, there wasn't anyone bidding for them. Frost bought them all for the price of 5 million per bottle. In total, she spent 60 million army merit. Long Yu let out a sigh of relief. This way it would be safer. As for the special effects of the demon Dust Heart, Frost didn't know. Long Yu didn't tell her that he wanted to buy the soul-connecting wine for himself. However, Frost knew that Long Yu was developing his own faction. In Frost's heart, she probably thought that Long Yu wanted to leave the soul-connecting wine for his own faction. There were even more items up for auction. Long Yu didn't really need anything. However, Red Oriole had her eyes on a special pill that could temporarily increase a cultivator's deduction abilities. This was something that was very useful to her. Who knew when it would come in handy? After the auction, Long Yu traded the 12 bottles of soul-connecting wine from Frost. He gave 6 of them to Moon Song and Red Oriole. Long Yu kept 6 for himself because he still needed to comprehend more power. Right now, he had completely comprehended the 9 nether godly characters. He was still a bit away from comprehending the metal elements, absolute beginning power. He hadn't even begun to comprehend the water elements, absolute beginning power. Other than that, there wasn't anything else that Long Yu needed to comprehend. At this time, he thought of the stone statue of the multi-winged race that he had found in the ancient ruins of the multi-winged race. This stone statue also contained some sort of revelation godly character's power. It was also derived from the metal elements, absolute beginning power. Before, Long Yu didn't have time to study it. Now, he could try to comprehend the stone statue's power. After all, he had the soul-connecting wine. I'll use these 6 bottles of soul-connecting wine to comprehend the metal elements, absolute beginning power and the stone statue's power. Long Yu thought to himself. If he wanted to ensure his survival in the eroding Moon Ancient Region, the most important thing was flexibility. If Long Yu increased his metal elements, absolute beginning power, he could increase the path of 9 nethers, absolute beginning power. As for the water elements, absolute beginning power, it was still the same. With the nether dragon blade, Long Yu didn't really need to comprehend this power. Thus, for the current Long Yu, grasping other powers was a bit more urgent. After obtaining the soul-connecting wine, the people in the eroding moon ancient region hadn't gathered yet. So, Long Yu had time to drink all 6 bottles of soul-connecting wine and see what level he could reach. At the same time, he wanted to see if he could comprehend the revelation-level metal elements, absolute beginning, power derived from the stone statue. Long Yu returned to his personal space and directly returned to his small world. He took out the stone statue of the multi-winged race and began to comprehend the power within it. In such a state, Long Yu drank the first bottle of soul-connecting wine. Since his small world had merged with the metal elements, sky spirit source, he could naturally improve his understanding of the metal elements, absolute beginning power. It was just that the speed was not as fast. If he wanted to quickly comprehend the metal elements, absolute beginning power, he still had to return to the absolute beginning golden pool in the void galaxy. Unfortunately, Long Yu didn't have the time to go back now. Right now, there were no missions in the Demigod College for him to accept to be teleported to the primordial blood star in the first outer galaxy of the demon race's territory. Therefore, Long Yu could only wait in the Demigod College for the people in the eroding moon ancient region to gather. As Long Yu drank the soul-connecting wine, he once again fell into a half-drunk and half-awake state. Not long after, he completely lost consciousness. In such a state, the speed at which he comprehended various powers directly increased by 100 times. One day was equivalent to the result of 3 months of comprehension. One day later, after the effect of the first bottle of soul-connecting wine ended, Long Yu gradually woke up. He found that he had already comprehended 50% of the metal elements, absolute beginning power. This efficiency was still very slow. After all, when he drank the soul-connecting wine to comprehend the Grade 1 divine formation, the illusion field, he also improved the metal elements, absolute beginning power. But now, the most important thing was the power in the stone statue of the multi-winged race. That was another prophet-level divine text derived from the metal elements, absolute beginning power. Now, Long Yu knew that this power was called Dark Demon Divine Text. At this moment, Long Yu knew that this kind of power was mainly able to greatly affect and destroy the opponent's mind. It was a kind of divine rune power that attacked the mind. Long Yu randomly found an ice god from the pocket dimension and then used the forest demon divine rune on it to activate the limitless grasp. He discovered that the ice god had directly become lifeless, and its mind and soul had actually been completely destroyed. The Dark Demon Divine Text, combined with the Dark Demon Divine Text, could directly destroy the opponent's spirit and soul during the 3rd stage of the grip. It was extremely domineering, but unfortunately, now that Long Yu had drunk a bottle of soul-connecting wine, he had only comprehended less than 20% of the Dark Demon Divine Text. Even if he drank all 6 bottles of soul-connecting wine, it would still be impossible for him to completely comprehend it. But Long Yu was not in a hurry. Even if he only comprehended 50% of the Dark Demon Divine Text, it would be a powerful trump card in battle. It should be known that the Dark Demon Divine Text was also a prophet-level derivative divine text like the 9 Nether Divine Text. Its power was stronger than other divine texts, and it was even stronger than the absolute beginning power. Even if he only comprehended 50% of it, it had already surpassed ordinary people who completely comprehended the absolute beginning power. And there were not many people who could completely comprehend the absolute beginning power. Even those peak 7th stage great sovereign experts might not be able to completely comprehend one of the absolute beginning power. Long Yu comprehended the Dark Demon Divine Text and Dark Demon Divine Text at the prophet level. It could be said that he had surpassed those peak 7th stage great sovereign experts. Long Yu didn't think too much about it. He immediately self-detonated and reconstructed his physical body. Then, he drank the second bottle of soul-connecting wine. In any case, he was going to finish all 6 bottles of soul-connecting wine. It all depended on how much dark demon divine text and absolute beginning power he could comprehend in the end. In any case, with these 6 bottles of soul-connecting wine, Long Yu's overall combat strength would definitely rise to another level. At the very least, when facing 7th stage Great Sovereign experts, it would be much easier. Whether it was fighting or escaping with a powerful mental attack, the dark demon divine text would bring him many possibilities. Chapter 1494. 7 days passed. Long Yu had finished all 6 bottles of divine spirit wine, which was equivalent to a year and a half's worth of metal-type, elemental primordial power and revelation grade forest devil divine text. The results were remarkable. Among them, he had finally comprehended 60% of the metal elemental primordial power and 50% of the disclosure grade forest demon divine text. After all, Long Yu had the multi-winged clan's stone statue. With the source of comprehension to rely on, his comprehension speed was naturally extremely fast. Unlike metal-type elemental primordial power, Long Yu could only rely on the metal-type heavenly spirit source to slowly improve. If he hadn't drunk the divine spirit wine, he wouldn't have been able to feel the improvement. Long Yu left his personal dimension and prepared to head to the Demigod Institute's main hall. Most of the people preparing to go to the eroding moon ancient region were making their own preparations. Long Yu, Moon Song, and Red Oriole were doing the same. Long Yu had drunk 6 bottles of soul-connecting wine, and Moon Song had drunk 3 bottles of soul-connecting wine. Both of them had learned all 4 Grade 2 God formations. This way, the combined power of the 4 Grade 2 God formations would not be any weaker than a single Grade 1 God formation. This was because she had chosen the God formations that could complement each other. In the eroding moon ancient region, her 4 Grade 2 formations would definitely be very useful. As for Red Oriole, she had upgraded her high-grade unbounded martial skill, Binding Shadow Demon. She had been cultivating this martial skill to perfection, but now that she had come out, she had finally reached a transcendent level. Both the Binding Shadow Demon and Starflash in the 9 Firmaments were Red Oriole and Moon Song's only high-grade unbounded martial skills. Naturally, they worked very hard on them, especially Moon Song. After the Demigod Institute's academic year ended, Long Yu would have to take back Starflash in the 9 Firmaments, which made her feel very pressured. Right now, Moon Song's Starflash in the 9 Firmaments wasn't far from the final level. This was much faster than Long Yu's progress with the Unbounded Grasp and Warring Celestial Body. After all, Long Yu was cultivating 2 high-grade, unbounded martial skills at the same time. Furthermore, he was constantly shifting his focus to other areas. Therefore, it was only natural that his comprehension of the 2 martial skills would be slower. In just a few days, the 3 of them had their own breakthroughs. However, the 3 of them still didn't have much confidence in entering the eroding moon ancient domain. In any case, the 3 of them had to travel together after entering the eroding moon ancient domain. Otherwise, they would definitely die. If they traveled together, they might have a chance to obtain something in the eroding moon ancient domain. The 3 of them came to the mission hall of the Demigod College, only to find that a lot of people had already gathered there. Many experts who didn't belong to the Demigod Colleges had come to the Demigod Colleges and were ready to go to the Eclipse Moon ancient region with everyone else. Without exception, all of these experts were powerful existences at the 7th phase Great Sovereign Realm. Some came from the Guardian Army, some from the Demon Race Alliance, but most of them came from the army on the battlefield. The god-level existence who had left the eroding moon ancient region had set a hard rule for the eroding moon ancient region. Only 200 people from each race could enter the eroding moon ancient region. If more people wanted to enter, those who entered later would be directly teleported out. The human race and demon race added up to 400 spots. Long Yu glanced at the statistics and knew that among the 400 spots, more than 300 people were peak 7th phase Great Sovereigns. Among them, Long Yu saw someone he hadn't seen in a long time. It was an old guy he met in the demon race's territory, Iron Wall Galaxy, Master White Cloud. Back when Long Yu provoked the Golden Flood Dragon Demon race's third prince in the bloody battlefield of the Iron Wall Galaxy, Master White Cloud was there to watch and even helped Long Yu. He was the person closest to the demigod realm in the human race's White Cloud Galaxy. Master White Cloud was indeed very strong. It was normal for him to be invited to the eroding moon ancient region. In addition, Long Yu also saw Consort Yu. Unfortunately, Consort Yu hadn't stepped into the demigod realm yet. When Long Yu's group of 3 appeared, Consort Yu clearly saw them as well. She walked towards the 3 of them. There were a few men surrounding Consort Yu. When they saw Consort Yu walking towards Long Yu, they couldn't help but cast curious looks at Long Yu. These men undoubtedly knew Consort Yu or had heard of Consort Yu. In any case, they had a good impression of Consort Yu. After all, Consort Yu was originally the 9 Nether Clan's holy maiden. Her reputation was well known throughout the human race and demon race's territory. By now, the news of Consort Yu leaving the 9 Nether Clan had already spread throughout the human race and demon race. Moreover, there were rumors that she left the 9 Nether Clan because of a man. That man's name was Long Yu. The kid in front of him, who was only a rank 3 great ruler, was Long Yu? Many of the men present looked at Long Yu with hostility. It was obvious that they were rather indignant that Long Yu had abducted Consort Yu. Little did they know that Long Yu was merely a fuse for Consort Yu's departure from the 9 Nether Clan. Even without Long Yu, Consort Yu would have left the 9 Nether Clan sooner or later. Long Yu noticed Consort Yu walking towards him. He also noticed the hostility of some of the people around him. In particular, there were 2 middle-aged men who exuded an aura similar to his. It was the power of the 9 Nether Divine characters. Of course, it was impossible for these 2 middle-aged men to comprehend the Revelation Grade 9 Nether Divine characters. The aura they exuded was only the Origin Grade 9 Nether Divine characters. It was obvious that they were experts from the 9 Nether Clan. They were peak 7th stage Sovereign Realm existences. These 2 middle-aged men were the 2 great experts of the 9 Nether Clan, Jianren Hao and Shi Wanqing. They were true overlords of the 9 Nether Star River. If Consort Yu had remained in the 9 Nether Clan, she would still be under the control of the Elders, including these 2 men. It was precisely because of this that Consort Yu felt very restricted in the 9 Nether Clan. Therefore, she wanted to leave the 9 Nether Clan. Now, Jianren Hao and Shi Wanqing were both over 100 years old. They had already participated in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain 2 or 3 times, so they had a lot of experience. However, they weren't able to obtain anything from the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain. It was probably because they were too cowardly. Although they didn't die inside, they didn't obtain anything. Logically speaking, for these fellows, there was no need for Long Yu to let them participate. It would be a waste of a quota. In any case, they were so cowardly that they didn't dare to enter the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain. They wouldn't be able to obtain anything from it. Their chances of advancing to the demigod realm were even slimmer. However, the human race and the demon race had a total of 400 quotas. No matter what, these 2 old fellows were qualified to participate. After all, it wasn't up to Long Yu to decide. Soon, Consort Yu came to Long Yu. She smiled at him and said, "Long time no see." It was a pity that Long Yu didn't see her when he returned to the Void Galaxy last time. If there was a chance, Long Yu would like to lend her the 9 Serenities prison tablet so that she could comprehend more revelation-level divine text of 9 Serenities. It was a pity that Long Yu had kept the 9 Serenities prison tablet because it was useful. Moreover, Consort, you also needed to fully comprehend the primordial power of the metal element. Therefore, it was left in the primordial golden pond in the void galaxy. If they were to go to the eclipse moon ancient domain now, they still had some time to prepare. It would be a good time for Consort you to comprehend more revelation-level divine text of 9 serenities. Well, when we settle down, I'll lend you the 9 serenities prison tablet. You can comprehend more revelation-level divine text of 9 serenities. Long Yu nodded and smiled. Of course, no one else could hear their conversation. Consort Yu nodded and didn't say anything else. Then, she walked behind Long Yu and chatted with Moon Song and Red Oriole. She had obviously heard about Moon Song from Little White and Shueluo, so she wasn't a stranger to her. Seeing that the 3 girls were chatting, Long Yu could only stand aside and observe the general situation. The mission hall of the Demigod College was filled with big shots and experts from all over the human race and the demon race. It was a gathering of heroes. Apart from the 100 students from the Demigod College who were allowed to participate in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain, the rest were from other forces of the human race and the demon race. The people of the Battlefield Army, the Guardian Army, and the Demon Race Alliance were all gathered together. Everyone had their own circles, but without exception, any one of these people was a powerful figure that could shake the entire human race or demon race territory if they were placed in the outside world. For example, Jian Renhao and Shi Wanqing of the 9 Serenities family. A single decision from them could lead to great changes in the 9 Serenities galaxy and the few galaxies nearby. Such existences were already at the pinnacle of the human race and the demon race. Apart from the 14 demigod experts of the 2 races, their power and influence were undoubtedly the highest. Almost everyone here had been through thousands of battles and were no strangers to the alien races. The experts of the Battlefield Army, in particular, were all extremely strong and had abundant experience in fighting against the alien races. Of course, these were only half of the top experts from the human race and demon race. After all, even though there was a great opportunity hidden in the eroding moon ancient domain, it was impossible for the 2 races to send out all of their experts. Otherwise, if something were to happen, the human race and demon race would suffer a great loss, a loss that they couldn't bear. Looking at the entire place, Long Yu saw more than one familiar person. There were several peak commanders of the Battlefield Army. Long Yu had seen them before, but he didn't know their names and didn't have much interaction with them. Even they were here. It was not hard to imagine that the overall strength of the human race and the demon race on the battlefield of the alien races had dropped a lot. However, it wasn't just the human race and the demon race. Now that the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain was about to open, the situation was the same for the Ice God Clan and the Fire God Clan. Most of their experts were going to the Eclipse Moon Ancient Domain to search and compete for opportunities. When Long Yu thought about how he was about to face the strongest group of people from the various races, he felt his blood boil with excitement. Chapter 1495. In the mission hall of the Demigod College, experts from both the human and demon races had gathered. Apart from Master Bai Yun, Green Shadow, and Green Eagle, Long Yu soon saw a group of familiar faces. They were the 7 students of the Demigod College, the Slaughter Squad. Every one of them wore black robes and looked extremely mysterious. Their bodies also emitted an extremely strong murderous aura. When these 7 people arrived, they didn't attract too much attention. Although their murderous auras were very strong, they were all restrained. It was obvious that no matter where they were, the more restrained they were, the safer they would be. This was especially true in the Eclipse Moon Ancient region. If they were too high profile, no matter how strong they were, there was a possibility that they would be killed. After all, no one dared to truly say that they were the strongest existence below the demigod rank. There would always be someone stronger than you. Unless you stepped into the demigod realm, Every 7th phase Great Dominator expert would have a certain aspect that they were strong in. If they were to fight to the death, it really wasn't certain that they would win. Perhaps the slightest bit of carelessness would lead to a crushing defeat. After the slaughter squad arrived, another person that Long Yu recognized quickly arrived, Long Zai-Tian. As the commander of the Sky Dragon Legion in the battlefield, Long Zai-Tian was already a 7th phase dominator existence. This time, he was also invited to participate in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region competition. Without a doubt, he came because he didn't want to miss this opportunity. Most of the cultivators who were stuck at the 7th phase Great Dominator realm wanted to try their luck, especially those who had never participated in the Eroding Moon Ancient Region. They wanted to see if they could obtain some fortune through this opportunity to break through and step into the demigod realm. Long Zai-Tian clearly had such a thought. If even a new commander like Long Zai-Tian was like this, it could be seen that many of the dominator armies of the human and demon races would be resting during this period of time. If the other races wanted to attack the human or demon races, it would be much easier than usual. But at this time, there wouldn't be any foreign races that wanted to cause trouble. Basically, all the races on the alien battlefield had stopped fighting. Many of their experts were ready to participate in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Compared with ambushing and killing more enemies, if someone could enter the demigod level in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region, it would be of great help to the entire race. Every race sent 200 people into the Eroding Moon Ancient Region. There were over 140 races, which added up to nearly 3,000 people. Most of them were at the peak of the 7th stage Dominator realm. A 3rd stage Dominator like Long Yu could be said to be the first. Among the people who had entered the Eroding Moon Ancient Region, there was absolutely no doubt that Long Yu had the lowest martial Dao realm. Who could have a lower cultivation than him? Long Yu didn't say anything to Long Zai-Tian. Since the other had lost his memory and didn't remember anything about Beiyuyao, Long Yu and Long Zai-Tian had nothing to do with each other. Speaking of Beiyuyao, when Long Yu returned to the Void Galaxy last time, he left her and the Heaven Fire Doyen on the other side of the Void Galaxy. She could cultivate in the Void Galaxy, which was exactly what Beiyuyao wanted. As the number of people in the mission hall increased, it soon reached more than 300 people. There were only about 20 people short of the 400 quota for the human and demon races. Everyone else had already arrived. However, it was clear that the demigod colleges didn't want to wait too long. The demigod Foppish soon appeared in front of everyone. This demigod from the heavenly bat demon race had a calm expression on his face. He looked around as if he was counting the number of people. Then, another demigod flashed out of the void. It turned out that he was also an acquaintance of Long Yu. It was the Black Tiger demigod from the demon race, Mountain Breaker. We'll take you to the Eroding Moon Ancient Region this time. Get ready. The Black Tiger demigod came over and said to everyone in a deep voice, the Eroding Moon Ancient Region will officially open in a month, but we have to go there a month earlier. Get ready. In the next month, the most important thing is to find out the strength of the other alien races. Also, you'd better communicate with each other. Many of you have been to the Eroding Moon Ancient Region and dealt with the other alien races. Hearing that, Long Yu narrowed his eyes and looked at the two experts from the Elders' Cabinet of Jiao, Jianren Hao and Shi Wanqing. Both of them had been to the Eroding Moon Ancient Region twice. Logically speaking, they should be very experienced. However, it was a pity that the two of them only wandered around the entrance every time they entered the Eroding Moon Ancient Region. Not only did they not know what was inside the Eroding Moon Ancient Region, but they also didn't have much contact with the alien races. Therefore, he couldn't get any information from them. Fortunately, Long Yu had already obtained the information about the Eroding Moon Ancient Region from the database of the demigod colleges. As for some of the information, Long Yu had a general understanding. However, Long Yu didn't know much about the other alien races that were going to participate in the eroding moon ancient region, and he might be at a disadvantage in a battle. However, in the eroding moon ancient region, once he was at a disadvantage, it would definitely be a great loss. It was very likely that Long Yu would lose his life. Therefore, he had to find out more about it. For some people, this 1 month of preparation time was too long. In fact, it could even be very boring. However, for Long Yu, it was still not enough. 390 people were gathered on the spot. Together with the 2 demigods, there were 392 people in total. Mountain and Gaudi led everybody to a secret area in the college and activated one of the traps. Then, the entire demigod college released a powerful power of time and space, which was even more powerful than the origin power of water. Clearly, it was the power of an enlightenment-level divine text. The enlightenment-level power of time and space enveloped the entire demigod college. Then, the overwhelming power of time and space was transported to the secret area inside. Everyone was surrounded by the enlightenment-level power of time and space. Then, an invisible teleportation array was triggered. Everyone felt that their bodies were about to be torn apart. That was the sign of ultra-long-distance teleportation. Long Yu and Red Oriole held hands. Moon Song and Consort Yu were next to them. This combination made many people envious. This guy was surrounded by beautiful women, however, at this moment, it didn't matter whether they were beautiful or not. Very soon, everyone's bodies were disintegrated into the smallest particles by the enlightenment-level power of time and space. They were reassembled in the endless, silent, starry sky. They had arrived at the eroding moon ancient region. This was an ancient site that appeared in the void between Langya star area and the 2 nearby star areas. Around the eroding moon ancient region, which was the god spirit's inheritance palace, there were 3 galaxies that corresponded to Langya star area and the other 2 star areas. Those teleported from the Langya star area would appear in the place called the Langya star river, including the Ice God clan, the Fire God clan, the other god clans, the Abyss clan, the Soul clan, and the Divine Water clan. When the teleportation was over, Long Yu and the others still felt a little uncomfortable. Even the other 7th-stage great sovereigns were a little stiff, but they would be fine after a short rest. The 2 demigods, on the other hand, didn't feel any discomfort. After all, they were existences close to the realm of gods. They had 1 foot in the realm of gods, so they didn't feel any discomfort from such a long-distance teleportation. However, no matter who they were, there was one thing in common, which was that everyone who came here had temporarily suppressed their level of martial arts to the level of the secret state of divinity. All of them, including the demigods, were now in the 7 realms of divinity. Let's familiarize ourselves with the surroundings first. This place is the headquarters of our human race and demon race, Landslide and Gaudi said. Landslide and Gaudi added, in addition, all of our martial Dao cultivation has been temporarily suppressed to the 7 Daos divinity realm. The same goes for the other foreign races that have come to Langya Galaxy. You must be careful not to cause trouble in the territory of other foreign races. Otherwise, only death awaits you. Just like the joint territory of our human race and demon race. Landslide pointed above his head, and everyone saw a golden light barrier. This thing is an extremely powerful defensive barrier. It also has the ability to counterattack. If the foreign races try to invade, it can unleash a powerful counterattack similar to the sovereign's secret realm. Think about it, with our current cultivation of the transcendent realm, if we get counterattacked by this light barrier, only death awaits us. This light barrier, was it prepared by the divine spirit realm expert who left behind the eroding moon ancient region? Many people raised their heads and looked at the light barrier with mixed emotions. Under such suppression, a defensive barrier that could unleash the power of the sovereign's secret realm was undoubtedly a protective umbrella for everyone. As long as they didn't leave the area, there wouldn't be any danger to their lives. This was also the condition for the inheritance of the eroding moon ancient region to find an inheritor. Otherwise, with so many foreign races around the eroding moon ancient region, most of them would die outside. What if there was a genius suitable for the inheritance of the divine spirit realm among them? Long Yu carefully observed his surroundings. They were in a quiet void. Not far from this void there were several planets. The environment of these planets seemed to be quite good, allowing the experts who came here to rest to have a good time to relax. As for the golden light barrier, it enveloped a few nearby planets. Its range wasn't too large, but it wasn't small either. Even if one's cultivation wasn't suppressed, constructing such a massive light barrier wasn't something an ordinary 7th-stage ruler could do. At least 10 rulers would be required to work together in order to construct such a large light barrier. Feeling their cultivation suppressed to the 7 Daos transcendent realm, most of the people weren't used to it. Only those who had been here before were relatively calm. They casually flew towards the planets below, preparing to rest for a month. Chapter 1496. Long Yu wasn't prepared to stay here with peace of mind. He believed that there would be quite a number of people from other races who wanted to go out and scout for information. Since everyone was at 7 Daos Divinity Realm, Long Yu had a great advantage over them. If it was a one-on-one battle, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone. Moreover, with the various methods he had, even if he was surrounded by a large group of foreign races, he only needed to turn into nothingness to escape. It wouldn't be difficult at all. After turning into nothingness, it would take some time for the other party to deduce his location. This period of time was enough for Long Yu to use the Nether Dragon Blade to escape to a faraway place. However, Long Yu still planned to bring Moon Song and Red Oriole along. After all, the three of them had been working together for a long time, and they had enough tacit understanding with each other. Moreover, the three of them would have to move together in the eroding moon ancient region. Now that they were going out together to see the other foreign races, it would definitely be of great help to the eroding moon ancient region. What surprised Long Yu was that when he went to call Moon Song and Red Oriole to go with him, Consort Yu actually suggested to go with them. This surprised Long Yu, but after thinking about it, he still nodded and agreed. On one hand, Long Yu and Consort Yu had a good relationship to begin with. On the other hand, Consort Yu wasn't weak. Even though her cultivation had been suppressed to 7 Daos Divinity Realm, her current strength wouldn't lose to Long Yu's. It would definitely be safer to move together. Like Long Yu, there were quite a few others who wanted to scout out the enemy's situation. This included the 7 black-clothed members of the Slaughter Squad. 2 of them were women, and each of them had a very heavy killing intent. However, if the 7 of them were to hide, it would be extremely difficult for them to be discovered. Of course, the 2 sides wouldn't go together. In reality, there were at least 100 people who wanted to scout out the enemy's situation. These 100 people were all divided into teams of 3 to 5 people, and there were a total of 20 teams that chose to go together. There were even people who went alone. These were people who were extremely confident in their own strength. Long Yu ignored the others. In any case, he, Moon Song, Red Oriole, and Consort Yu left the joint encampment of the human race and Yao race and immediately teleported into the distance. The 3 women stayed in Long Yu's small world, while Long Yu used the void Nether Dragon Blade to constantly teleport into the distance. Every time he teleported, he could travel tens of millions of kilometers. It was extremely fast. In this galaxy, the distance between the camps of the alien races was only tens of billions of kilometers. In total, the Netherworld Dragon Blade would only need to travel through the void for 2 hours at most before it could reach the next foreign tribe's base. Traversing the entire Langya galaxy, Long Yu estimated that it would only take him a few days. Now that the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade's speed had reached this level, it was even faster than many other peak 7th stage sovereigns. However, it would take a lot more time to travel from one galaxy to another. It would take at least 10 days. Therefore, it was impossible for Long Yu to explore the other 2 galaxies in this 1 month's time. At most, he would circle around the Langya galaxy and get a rough idea of the 40-plus races in the Langya galaxy. In any case, when everyone entered the eroding moon ancient region, they would enter from 3 different directions. There was only one entrance in the Langya galaxy. The other 2 galaxies' foreign races wouldn't enter from this entrance. If they wanted to encounter the other 2 galaxies' foreign races, they would have to venture deeper into the eroding moon ancient region. Otherwise, Long Yu and the others would only encounter the 40-plus races in the Langya galaxy. Up until now, Long Yu knew that there were 6 foreign races in the Langya galaxy. The Ice God Clan, the Fire God Clan, the Earth God Clan, the Desolate God Clan, the Winged God Clan, and the Wood God Clan. There were also the Abyss Clan, the Soul Clan, and the Divine Water Clan. In the previous Demigod Academy mission, Long Yu and the others had come into contact with some special races, but they weren't sure if those races were from the Langya galaxy. If it was a strange dark green alien race lurking in the Abyss Ridge galaxy, then it was definitely not from the Langya galaxy, because the Langya galaxy's alien races were basically recorded by the human race and the demon race. Even if they did not encounter them, it was impossible for them to not know about them. However, the dark green race was a foreign race that the human race and the demon race had never seen before. Obviously, it wasn't from the Langya galaxy or even the 3 nearby galaxies. Long Yu didn't want to think too much about it. Anyway, he just wanted to take the 3 girls out to have a look. He didn't need to have any conflicts with the other races. It was enough to know the other party's strength and methods. If there was a conflict, Long Yu was very sure that he wouldn't have any backup. As for the foreign races, there might be a large group coming over. This was a risk that couldn't be taken. Although Concubine Yu had already reached the peak of the 7th phase Great Ruler Realm, she had only been born 20 years ago. She definitely hadn't participated in the exploration of the eroding moon ancient region. Therefore, it was good for her to follow Long Yu and take a look. At least with the Nothingness incarnation, Long Yu didn't have to worry about running into too much danger. The Nether Void Dragon Blade constantly teleported with Long Yu to another foreign race's encampment. Soon, he felt the power of the Ice God Clan's encampment emerging in the surrounding void. They had arrived near the Ice God Clan's encampment. Long Yu knew that in the Langya galaxy, the arrangement of the major foreign races' encampments was similar to the arrangement of the major foreign races' territories in the Langya galaxy. Therefore, the Ice God Clan and the Fire God Clan were the closest to the human races and demon races' territories. Further away should be the Abyss Clan, the Soul Clan, the Divine Water Clan, the Silverstone Clan, and other foreign races. If Long Yu wanted to see more foreign races, he had to go further away. As for the Ice God Clan's encampment, there was no need to explore it. Because Long Yu was already familiar with the Ice God Clan, he had a basic understanding of their combat strength and fighting style. There was no need to waste time here. Continuing like this, 2 days later, Long Yu arrived near the Divine Water Clan's encampment. The Divine Water Clan was a foreign race in the Void Galaxy. This clan was relatively small in size, only the size of a human's fist. Their bodies were made of gray liquid, with countless small blisters in their bodies. Although this foreign race did not look like living beings, in fact, they possessed extremely high intelligence. The main fighting style of the Divine Water Clan was their clan's unique weapons. These weapons were very powerful, but they could not be used by the human race, demon race, or any other race. Among the same level of weapons, the Divine Water Clan's weapons were about twice as powerful as those of the human race or demon race. This was a very impressive achievement. In terms of weapon refining, the Divine Water Clan's level was far superior to that of other races. Heaven Fire Doyen's weapon refining skills were considered top-notch among the human race and demon race, but in the Divine Water Clan, it was obviously nothing. As for the Divine Water Clan, Long Yu did not need to observe them for long. Ever since he knew that there was a Divine Water Clan in the Void Galaxy, he had done a thorough investigation on this alien race. He had learned their main fighting style and fighting style. There was also the Silver Stone race. Each individual of this alien race was a giant existence that was hundreds of meters tall. Their bodies were so strong that they could completely suppress the bodies of the Abyss race. This race's fighting style mainly relied on powerful ancient martial technique. The ancient martial skills of the Silverstone clan were basically above the unbounded level. Some of the nobles could even cultivate the upper grade unbounded level, or even the supreme grade. Many of the martial skills of the human race and the demon race had been lost. The martial skills of the Silverstone race had been passed down from generation to generation. They had never encountered an intense crisis where their race was nearly exterminated. Therefore, these martial skills had always been recorded. Now, there were many individuals who practiced them. In the Langiastar area, which alien race had the strongest individual combat strength, it was undoubtedly the Silverstone clan. Although their bodies were huge, they were nimble and not clumsy at all. As Long Yu and the three women teleported further into the Langiastar area, the alien races they saw finally became more and more strange. There were all kinds of forms. There were even those that used the power of divine characters. For some alien races, as long as they got close to their base, they could feel what kind of power they mainly used. But there were also alien races like the human race and the demon race, which didn't have a specific attribute. It depended on the individual. Each individual could understand the power of the divine characters of different attribute. This alien race's comprehensive strength was the strongest. It was not like the Ice God clan, who only needed to prepare a set of skills to deal with the Ice God clan. Just like in the human race, if two people walked together, they would definitely be able to cooperate with each other. As a result, their combined combat strength would be much stronger than when they walked alone. This kind of alien race that understood mixed powers would definitely move in small group. Their comprehensive combat strength would be extremely strong when they cooperated with each other. As Long Yu moved deeper into the Langiastar area, he saw strange alien races one after another. Each alien race had its own characteristic. Some looked very difficult to deal with, but some looked easy to deal with. If he encountered an alien race that he couldn't see through at first glance, Long Yu would sweep around the vicinity with the three women, trying to catch a single alien race individual. This kind of behavior was very dangerous, but when Long Yu turned into nothingness, he could occasionally succeed. Under such circumstances, Long Yu managed to capture quite a few individuals of the Outlander race. They were all alone. Then, with his 7 Daos Transcendent Realm cultivation base, Long Yu fought with them. He basically figured out their fighting style as well as their basic attribute. Most importantly, he figured out where their vitals and weaknesses were. Chapter 1497. In a month's time, Long Yuzheng led the three women around the entire Langia Celestial River. During this period of time, they saw more than 40 foreign races in the Langia Galaxy. Among the 200 foreign races that came to participate in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region, there were at least 100 peak 7th Phase Sovereign Realm existences. It could be seen that every foreign race attached great importance to the opening of the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region. After all, it was an inheritance left behind by a divine spirit. It was very possible that they could obtain some kind of opportunity that would allow them to step into the demigod realm. However, at the same time, they also held back. They wouldn't send all of their elite experts here to test their luck. Otherwise, if all of their elite experts died in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region, the foundation of their races would be shaken. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Moreover, the possibility of obtaining a divine spirit's inheritance in the Eclipse Moon Ancient Region was too small. There was no need to put in too much effort. Every time the eroding moon ancient region opened, out of the 200 participants from each race, it was normal for at least 10 of them to die in the best-case scenario. However, if the competition was more intense and the foreign races were unlucky, more than half of the 200 participants would die, and it was normal for more than 100 of them to not be able to return home alive. Soon, after Long Yu walked around, they finally returned to the joint encampment of the human race and demon race. At this time, the eclipse moon ancient region was about to open. Almost everyone was rubbing their palms, ready to fight. Long Zai Tian and the other commanders had clearly formed a small team of 6. They were all peak existences at the 7th phase Great Dominator realm. When they joined forces, their battle strength would definitely be very strong. However, correspondingly, there would be a problem. That problem was the distribution of the spoils of war. After all, if they were to travel together, they would only be able to obtain one portion of the treasures from the eroding moon ancient region. If the 6 of them were to divide the spoils of war equally, it would obviously cause some conflicts. Of course, Long Zai Tian and the others were familiar with each other. Under such circumstances, it was slightly better. If they were strangers, due to their unfamiliarity with each other, it was very easy to cause some trouble during the distribution of the spoils of war. This was unavoidable. Therefore, unless they were very familiar with each other, they would basically not form a team to enter this place. The 7 members of the slaughterer squad of the demigods were all wearing black robes and hiding in the darkness. Naturally, the 7 of them had entered together. The 7 of them had completed their missions in the demigods' academy together. Even in the eroding moon ancient domain, they usually wouldn't have a disagreement over the spoils of war. Green Shadow and Cyan Eagle chose to move together. Their combat strength was not weak. Although they seemed to have suffered quite a bit when they went to deal with the dark green alien with Long Yu, they really did not expect the situation at the center of the planet to be like that. In the eroding moon ancient region, Green Shadow and Cyan Eagle wouldn't be in any danger. After all, they were elites of the demigod academies, and they were extremely powerful when they worked together. Apart from them, Jian Renhao and Shi Wanqing from the 9 Nether Clans Elder Pavilion were also moving together. Master Bai Yun from the White Cloud Galaxy's White Cloud Clan was moving together with a few other old fellows, preparing to go all out. This group of people had been to the eroding moon ancient region several times, and many of them had died in the eroding moon ancient region. This would not make Master Bai Yun and the others shrink back. After all, they were already old. If they could not step into the demigod realm as soon as possible, it was very likely that they would begin to weaken and die of old age in a few years. Of course, Long Yu would not go with those people above him. He originally wanted to go with Moon Song and Red Oriole, but in the past month, after showing Consort Yu around, Consort Yu said that she wanted to go with the 3 of them. There was no doubt about Consort Yu's strength. This was, of course, something that Long Yu was happy to see. However, the distribution of the spoils was a little tricky. After all, Consort Yu was much stronger than the 3 of them combined. It would be too unfair if they divided the spoils equally. However, if they did not, Long Yu and the others would also feel a little uncomfortable. In the end, Consort Yu said that if they really obtained something, they would put it on Long Yu first. After they returned, they would collect it and divide it according to their need. If there was a conflict of needs, they would bid for it to be divided equally. In other words, the main thing was to divide it according to need. If that was not possible, they would auction it according to the value of the spoils, and then divide it equally among the 4 of them. Such a distribution method was rather reasonable, and all 4 of them could accept it. Also, to be honest, Consort Yu was not too interested in most of the spoils in the eroding moon ancient domain. For her, the most important thing and hope was to find the key to become a demigod in the eroding moon ancient domain. With such a clue, even if she stayed with Long Yu and the others, Consort Yu was the only one who could transform into a demigod in the end. After all, Long Yu, Moon Song, and Red Oriole were all in a relatively low level of martial arts. It was impossible for them to directly break through to the demigod level. Because of that, Consort Yu was not very concerned about the other spoils. Even if they divided it equally, it would not be much of a difference for her. Moreover, Consort Yu's relationship with Long Yu had already reached a very good level. No matter if it was the things that happened in the Nine Serenities realm or the things that happened in the ancient ruins of the multi-winged race, the two of them had become very close. There were many things that did not need to be so clearly separated. As for Frost and Imperial Wind, the two faction leaders of the Demigod Academy, they each chose to go on their own. Their strength was not weak, at least compared to Consort Yu, so they each had their own merits. So, going on their own wasn't a big deal. If they obtained something, it would all be done by them alone. That kind of feeling was quite good. When everyone had decided who they would follow into the eroding moon ancient domain, it was about time for the domain to officially open. When Long Yu returned to the joint base of the human race and the demon race, he quickly discovered that out of the 392 people that had come together, only 388 were left. It was as if there were 4 fewer people than when they had first arrived. When he asked around, he found out that they had been killed by other races while they were scouting the enemy. Just like how Long Yu had caught 5 or 6 different races along the way, it was very easy for something like this to happen when they were alone. After all, in the Langya Galaxy, all the cultivators' martial arts realm was suppressed to the 7 Daos divinity realm. As long as 4 or 5 people moved together, it would be too easy to catch a lone member of a race. However, 4 of them had died, and none of them were people that Long Yu recognized. 2 of them were human experts and 2 were demon experts. The 4 of them were not students of the Demigod Academy, but had been selected from other places. Under such circumstances, there was nothing that could be done. The others didn't even know who did it, let alone avenge them. Even if they knew who killed the 4 people, it was impossible for them to seek revenge in the current situation, because the eroding moon ancient domain was about to open. Besides, even if they did go to the eroding moon ancient domain, they might not be able to defeat the culprit. It was not worth it. Those who died could be said to have died in vain. That was also why Landslide and Ostentatious had reminded them at the beginning to not act alone. It was a pity that some people didn't listen to them and acted recklessly just because they were strong. So, there was nothing that could be done. Tomorrow, the eroding moon ancient domain will officially open. Everyone, get ready. Landslide and Ostentatious gathered everyone together and began to talk about the things that had to be said. I believe that you've read the relevant information before. The eroding moon ancient domain is divided into 7 zones, and the difficulty and rewards of each zone are different. So far, the human race and the demon race have only been able to go to the 5th zone at most. It's said that as long as one can step into the 7th region, he or she will be able to obtain the inheritance of the deity senior. Unfortunately, none of the races have been able to step into the 7th region. Even the 6th region has never been entered before. In other words, anyone who has stepped into the 6th region has died in there and never been able to come out. As for the first 5 zones, 3 of them have the same difficulty, namely the Langya Zone, the Wild Sand Zone, and the Heavenly Spirit Zone. The 3 zones correspond to the 3 space zones that lead to the eroding moon ancient domain, namely the Langya Zone, the Wild Sand Zone, and the Heavenly Spirit Zone. Once you enter the Langya Zone, you will enter the Langya Zone. In the Langya Zone, you will encounter all kinds of obstacles, traps, and most importantly, challenges from other alien races. Also, the obstacles in the eroding moon ancient domain are different every time. It's impossible to prepare for them in advance. You will have to adapt to the situation on your own. Every time the Eclipse Moon ancient region opens, half of the cultivators that die are killed by the hands of the foreign races, and the other half are killed by the traps in the ancient region. So, we can't be careless no matter what, and we must be prepared to deal with all sorts of situations. The eroding moon ancient domain doesn't have a time limit. There's only a point deduction system, which you should know very well. Every time you enter the domain, you will be given 100 points. Every time you obtain a treasure or pass a challenge, some points will be deducted. The points are usually around 10 points. However, if you kill an alien race opponent, you will gain another 10 points. When all your points are deducted, you will be teleported out. Also, if you go to the next zone from one zone, your points will be directly increased by 100 points. You should all know what that means. Glancing around, the demigod mountain continued to explain, especially the last point deduction system, which Long Yu and the others had already learned from the relevant files. Chapter 1498. Generally speaking, the first 100 points wouldn't be enough for a cultivator to proceed to the next zone. At the very least, they would have to kill 1 or 2 foreign races to reach the next zone before their points were deducted. Otherwise, they would have to leave without taking any treasures. However, what was the point of not taking any treasures after entering the eroding moon ancient region? It was said that every treasure in the eroding moon ancient region was priceless in the outside world. At the very least, they were equivalent to high-grade unbounded martial skills, and the price of taking them was only a deduction of 10 points. As long as they killed a foreign race, they would be able to get 1 more treasure. So, why wouldn't they do it? Therefore, the eroding moon ancient region was destined to be a place filled with intense battles. Even if there weren't any benefits, the foreign races would definitely kill each other in a place filled with treasures. Not to mention, killing a foreign race would be worth 10 points. However, it was worth noting that as long as any person or foreign race died in the eroding moon ancient region, not even their bones would be left. Everything they had on them, including those that were especially precious, would be taken back by the eroding moon ancient region and used as a reward for the next opening of the eroding moon ancient region. This rule wouldn't change every time the eroding moon ancient region opened, so all the races could be prepared for it. As for the specific situation in the eroding moon ancient region, it would be different every time. Everyone could only rely on their own vigilance. Tomorrow was the day when the eroding moon ancient region would officially open. Right now, all the foreign races would be rubbing their palms together, preparing to show off their skills one by one. Based on the previous situation, one would have to pass through at least 7 or 8 traps to reach the next zone from the first zone. Therefore, nearly half of the people would be forcefully sent out of the eroding moon ancient region after their points were deducted in the first zone. Only the stronger ones would be qualified to enter the next zone. In the eroding moon ancient region, apart from the first 3 zones, which were the starting zones for the foreign races in the 3 starfields, there were 4 other zones. The 7th zone was where the legendary inheritance of the gods was located. The 6th zone was also where no one could come out alive after entering it. There were also the 5th and 4th zones. In fact, to Long Yu and the others, these 2 zones were the 2nd and 3rd zones. This was because Long Yu and the others would not go to the other 2 starting regions. After the Langyu region, it would be the 4th and 5th region of the eroding moon ancient domain. The 4th area was known as the advancement area. If one could enter the advancement area, the quality of the treasures there would be a grade higher than the starting area. However, the competition there was much more intense than in the starting area. The main reason was that the number of treasures there had decreased. One would have to go through several checkpoints before they could find a treasure. One could imagine how intense the competition was. Everyone made their preparations. There were all kinds of medicinal pellets that could boost one's strength in battle, medicinal pellets that could restore one's strength, some special weapons, and so on. All of them were perfectly prepared. As long as some of them were used, they could instantly create a magic formation on the spot, which was very effective for defense or interference. Long Yu and the others did not prepare anything like that. However, they still prepared a lot of medicinal pills. At the very least, they brought at least 200 medicinal pills that could restore one's strength. And this was only what Long Yu had prepared for himself. As for Red Oriole, Moon Song, and Consort Yu, they must have also prepared a lot of medicinal pellet. Otherwise, if they were to lose their lives in the eroding moon ancient domain due to a lack of medicinal pellets, it would be too tragic. Everyone was waiting anxiously. However, Long Yu wasn't nervous at all. Even on the day before the opening of the eroding moon ancient domain, he was still sizing up the other members of the human clan and demon clan who were participating in the eroding moon ancient domain. If he met them in the eroding moon ancient domain, he could consider in advance whether he could treat them as allies or ignore them. After all, people like Jian Renhao and Shi Wanqing from the Nine Nether clan were people that Long Yu did not want to ally with no matter what. Moreover, it was very likely that those two fellows would harm Long Yu, Consort Yu, and the others. In any case, Long Yu had figured out everything. Apart from the possible accidents that might occur in the eroding moon ancient domain, he could handle many situations. Hopefully, the eroding moon ancient domain this time would not be too difficult. After the day passed, the eroding moon ancient domain was finally going to officially open. When it opened, everyone had to stay behind the light barrier of the various clans' encampments. After that, all existences below the demigod level would be directly transported to the eroding moon ancient domain. Members of a team had to have physical contact with each other. That way, they would be transported to the same place. The inheritance of the deity in the eroding moon ancient domain stated that a team could not have more than 7 people. Therefore, only 7 people could move together at most. Long Yu leaned against Red Oriole. Red Oriole held Moon Song's hand, and Moon Song held Consort Yu's hand. The 4 of them could be said to be a team. This caused many people to look at them with envy. After all, Consort Yu could definitely be considered as one of the strongest 20 people in the human race. Now, she was actually walking together with Long Yu and the others, who had not even reached the 7th phase Great Sovereign Realm. It was truly a reckless waste of resources. However, Long Yu, Consort Yu, and the others did not care about what others thought. Right now, all they were thinking about was what to do once they entered the eroding moon ancient domain. Soon, the light barrier around the encampment released a ray of white light. Like a waterfall, the endless white light fell from the sky and engulfed Long Yu and the others. A total of 386 great sovereigns of the human race and the demon race directly disappeared within the white light. As for the 2 demigods, Landslide and Gaudy, they were not transported away by the white light. Instead, they continued to stay in the encampment. The white light barrier around the encampment was still there, protecting Landslide and the demigod, as well as the other demigod experts leading the other races. For the next period of time, they would have to guard the encampment. This was because other races could appear from the eroding moon ancient domain at any time, and they would need to provide support. Long Yu and the others were enveloped by the white light and were transported away. When the 4 of them regained consciousness, they found themselves in a void. In this void, there were some light barriers that divided the entire void into countless passages and different sections. It was like a maze in space, divided by the white light barrier. Right now, Long Yu and the others were at the entrance of this maze. Behind them, the white light barrier blocked their path of retreat. Right now, they could only follow this passage and advance forward. Although they could not see what was behind the wall of light, the 4 of them could tell that the wall of light was somewhat transparent. They could see that the entire wall of light was in a void, but they could not see what was behind the wall of light. This feeling was very strange. It was clearly transparent, allowing them to see the void in the distance, but they could not see what was behind the light barrier. It was extremely strange. However, this eroding moon ancient domain was a masterpiece of the gods, so it was not strange for anything strange to happen here. Let's go. Although the checkpoints in the eroding moon ancient region are different every time it opens, there's still an order to it. The checkpoints and the treasures are all marked out. Let's just follow this path and continue forward. Consort Yu said as she flew forward. The entire eroding moon ancient domain was shockingly huge. Even the starting area was comparable to half a galaxy. If one didn't arrive at a checkpoint room or a treasure room, it was basically impossible for one to encounter any foreign tribes or other people. The four of them continued forward and arrived at the end of the passage formed by the white light barrier. At the end of the passage, there was a teleportation formation, and beside the teleportation formation was a cross symbol. That means there's a checkpoint after passing through this teleportation array. Everyone, be careful. This is the first checkpoint we'll encounter. In this checkpoint, we might encounter a trap made by a deity, or we might encounter cultivators of other alien races. Consort Yu said. At this moment, Long Yu gave it a try and discovered that he really could not use the power of his world. He could not continue to keep Moon Song, Red Oriole, and the others in his small world, so the four of them could only step onto the teleportation formation together. I'll go first. Consort Yu did not wait for Long Yu and the others to respond. She immediately stepped onto the teleportation formation. Then, with a flash of white light, Consort Yu's figure disappeared before their eyes. Let's follow her. Be careful. Long Yu said to Moon Song and Red Oriole before stepping onto the teleportation formation. With a flash of white light, Long Yu was teleported away. Soon, he appeared in an even stranger room constructed by a wall of light barrier. This room was spherical, and it enveloped Long Yu and Consort Yu, who had just been teleported over. The entire sphere-shaped room was extremely vast. Even Concubine Yu could not forget to look at the other end of the sphere-shaped room. In this sphere-shaped room, it was not completely empty. Instead, there were many white balls of light that constantly swam around the room. There were at least 100 white balls of light flying around the room. It was unknown what these white balls of light were for, but whether it was Long Yu or Yu Fei, they both had a premonition that if they touched these white balls of light, they would most likely be killed by these white balls of light. This made Long Yu and Consort Yu very clear that they absolutely could not touch these white balls of light. It was also at this moment that Moon Song and Red Oriole teleported behind the two of them. At the same time, the four of them discovered that on the other end of the spherical room, there were indeed a few relatively unfamiliar figures of alien races. Long Yu and the others had never seen these alien races before. However, during the month of preparation, Long Yu had seen them. There were also 4 alien races. It seemed that the eroding moon ancient region had purposefully placed the same number of alien races into the same checkpoint room so that both sides would be evenly matched. Chapter 1499. Long Yu didn't know the name of that alien. However, he knew that it was similar to the human race and the demon race. It was a race that could comprehend all kinds of divine runes. Every individual used a different type of power. The 4 aliens that appeared in front of Long Yu and the others looked like a bunch of grapes. Their entire bodies were purple, and they were made up of small meatballs. They looked a little disgusting, but the combat power of this alien race couldn't be underestimated. Most importantly, among the 4 aliens in front of them, 2 were 7th-stage sovereigns, while the other 2 were 6th-stage sovereigns. Anyone that could come to the eroding moon ancient region, even if they were 6th-stage sovereigns, was definitely an expert that could fight above their rank. Fight with them. It's best if you can kill them, but if you can't, you have to protect yourself. Be careful not to touch the white spheres in this room. After Yu Fei finished speaking to the 3 of them, she circled around the strange white balls of light and flew towards the location of the 4 foreign races. It was obvious that if one wanted to pass this checkpoint, they would either have to rely on these white balls of light, or they would have to kill a foreign race in order to pass this checkpoint. This was based on some of the experiences and rules that people had concluded after entering the eroding moon ancient domain. These white spheres had never appeared before, but it was very common for members of two different races to be trapped in the same room. Basically, if a member of either side died, the entrance to the next passage would appear in the room. Seeing that Consort Yu was flying toward the four aliens, Long Yu followed closely behind. Moon Song and Red Oriole also didn't stay behind and quickly followed. On one hand, they wanted to help Consort Yu. On the other hand, they wanted to keep the four of them relatively close to each other. That way, if anything happened, they would be able to quickly provide support. 9 Underworld Sphere. As he approached the four foreign race beings, Long Yu raised his hand and formed his 8th mystic ability, the 9 Nether Sphere. Then, a pitch-black sphere formed by the destruction level 9 Nether Divine Runes appeared in midair. The 9 Underworld Sphere constantly changed its position, mainly to prevent it from colliding with the white spheres in the room. This was to prevent any accidents from happening. At the same time, the 9 Underworld Sphere continuously released some pitch-black entangling lines that wrapped around the four grape-like aliens. It directly controlled the flow of power within their bodies to a certain extent. Even though Long Yu only had the cultivation of a 3rd stage Great Ruler, the 9 Underworld Sphere was able to reduce the speed of his opponent's attacks by close to 30%. This was already enough to give them a huge advantage in battle. When the two races met in this checkpoint, the simplest way to deal with them was to kill each other. Even if only one of them was killed, the checkpoint's teleportation array would appear, and both sides would want to kill one of the other's members. On Long Yu's side, Consort Yu was a peak 7th stage sovereign. She was clearly the strongest. It wouldn't be easy to kill her. However, if they wanted to kill Long Yu, Moon Song, or Red Oriole, it wouldn't be that difficult. At the very least, it didn't seem to be a problem to the aliens. Perhaps they were even laughing. Why did this race send a 3rd stage sovereign into the Eclipse Moon ancient region? It was just too hilarious. The two 7th stage, sovereign-level grape-like aliens quickly tangled with Consort Yu. Consort Yu's immortal and devil chi erupted at the same time. The immortal chi dealt with one of the aliens, while the devil chi dealt with the other. Even though Consort Yu was extremely strong, it was impossible for her to escape from the joint attack. Even if it was a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be easy for Consort Yu to kill one of the aliens, let alone two of them working together. For Long Yu and the others, the remaining two powerful foreign races with the strength of a 6th phase Great Dominator weren't much of a problem. They had already encountered a similar situation when they completed their training at the Demigod Academy. They had even killed a few 6th phase Great Dominator experts in one go. Needless to say, the three of them were now a rank higher than before. They could even deal with ordinary 7th stage sovereigns. The two 6th stage sovereigns in front of them were roughly at the level of a 7th stage sovereign. They hadn't reached the peak, so it wasn't impossible for them to deal with the other party. Stars Scatter Chessboard. 1000 Soul Lock. Moon Song and Red Oriole used their divine formations at almost the same time. Moon Song's Stars Scatter Chessboard and Red Oriole's 1000 Soul Lock overlapped and trapped one of the 6th stage, sovereign-level grape-like aliens. The grape-like aliens' bodies constantly expanded and shrank as if they were about to explode. The trapped grape-like alien comprehended the power of fire divine characters. Powerful fire divine characters continuously condensed from its physical body in an attempt to destroy the Stars Scatter Chessboard and 1000 Soul Lock divine formations. However, it wasn't easy to destroy the two divine formations in a short amount of time. Under the control of the 1000 Gates Soul Lock, the foreign being's soul couldn't leave the range of the divine formation at all. It couldn't even sense what was happening in the outside world. Its ability to deduce, see, and sense were all blocked by the 1000 Gates Soul Lock. There was only one 6th stage sovereign left. Even though its strength was restricted by 30% by Long Yu's 9 underworld sphere, it wasn't a problem for the three of them. However, as if sensing that something was wrong, the 7th stage grape-like alien suddenly split into countless clones and teleported towards Long Yu. Each clone used the same technique. Countless bolts of lightning fell from the sky towards Long Yu, Moon Song and Red Oriole. That foreign being had comprehended the power of the lightning divine rune. Even though it was just a clone, the lightning attacks it unleashed were extremely sharp and unstoppable. Battle-mad celestial barrier. Long Yu stepped forward bravely. His entire body was covered by the divine characters of the battle-mad celestial barrier. After all, it was a high-grade unbounded martial technique. The battle-mad celestial barrier was able to withstand the attacks of the 7th stage sovereign's clones. Soon, Long Yu's entire body was covered in lightning. Soon, his fleshly body was almost completely destroyed. However, before his opponent could react, Long Yu's fleshly body began to rapidly reform. At the same time, Moon Song and Red Oriole joined forces. Starlight Sky-rending slash. Blood-colored whip. The two women unleashed their attacks together, destroying all of the clones of the 7th phase sovereigns. The most notable was Red Oriole's blood-colored whip. Countless whip images appeared in the air as it slammed into the body of the 6th phase sovereigns not too far away. If a 6th phase sovereign was struck by these blood-colored whips head-on, he would probably suffer quite a bit. Even his soul would be damaged. However, how could the 6th stage sovereign be hit by the attack just like that? The blood-colored whip had only struck the afterimage of the sovereign. Immediately afterwards, the sovereign vanished from the battlefield, not even leaving a trace behind. Clearly, he had used some sort of concealment technique to hide himself and wait for an opportunity to strike. Balanced light. Red Oriole raised her hand, and the light of equalization enveloped her body. She then spread out her spiritual sense, and in the blink of an eye, she found the missing 6th phase sovereign. 4 aspects death prison. Long Yu didn't hesitate. His fleshly body was only halfway through reforming, but he immediately used the 4 aspects death prison, a forbidden technique of the ancient gods. Countless lines of death shot out and wrapped around the 6th stage sovereign who had been hiding. The lines of death continuously destroyed the sovereign's body, soul, and soul. Most importantly, the damage to the soul was almost unavoidable and permanent. At this time, the other 6th stage sovereign finally escaped from the 1,000-soul lock. Although he was still in a daze, he immediately understood the situation in front of him. His body emitted the power of radiant divine characters, which landed on his comrade who had been attacked by the 4 aspects death prison. The power of the radiant divine characters was actually able to gradually dispel the lines of death from the 4 aspects death prison. Moreover, it was actually able to repair the damaged soul of the sovereign. This technique is amazing. Even Long Yu couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Cultivators who could enter the eroding moon ancient region were indeed not easy to deal with. It was extremely difficult to kill a single one of these sovereigns. Not to mention, 2 of the strongest sovereigns were being held up by Consort Yu. Otherwise, this battle wouldn't have even begun. Forest Devil Divine Characters. Boundless Grasp. When Long Yu saw that the sovereign who had comprehended radiant divine characters was actually so powerful, he immediately wanted to get rid of the sovereign first. There was no point in using the same technique again. If he used the 1,000-soul lock again, it wouldn't be able to trap the sovereign for long. After all, the sovereign had seen this technique before, so it would be much easier to get rid of it. There was no need to use it again. Therefore, Long Yu directly used the Forest Devil Divine characters that he had comprehended to 50% of the Revelation-grade Forest Devil Divine characters to activate the Boundless Grasp. It formed an invisible hand that grabbed the sovereign who had comprehended radiant divine characters. Then, the 2nd and 3rd stages of the Boundless Grasp were activated. The forest devil divine characters directly exploded within the sovereign's body. Due to the special characteristics of the forest devil divine characters, when used together with the boundless grasp, it could directly destroy the opponent's soul. Moreover, it was under the condition that the opponent's power was sealed. The sovereign didn't even have the chance to use radiant divine characters. Just like that, the eruption of the forest devil divine characters by Long Yu destroyed more than half of the sovereign's soul. Immediately afterward, Red Oriole's blood-colored whip arrived in the blink of an eye. It also had the power to destroy the sovereign's soul. It continuously landed on the sovereign who had comprehended radiant divine characters. The other sovereign wanted to help, but it was stopped by Moon's song. The scattered stars' divine formation, her innate divine ability, and her Archean martial skill all combined together made it impossible for the sovereign to break through and help the sovereign who had comprehended radiant divine characters. Chapter 1500. Long Yu's Dark Demon Divine Text and Red Oriole's blood-colored whip attacked at the same time. The sixth phase sovereign was completely unable to block them, and its soul quickly became extremely weak. However, at this time, one of the seventh phase sovereigns charged over recklessly. The power of the lightning divine text blasted out, forcing Long Yu and Red Oriole back, saving the sixth phase sovereign on the verge of death. The sovereigns seemed to have communicated with each other, and their strategy immediately changed. In a head-on battle, the four sovereigns realized that they weren't a match for Long Yu and the others. Therefore, they decisively changed their strategy and attacked the white balls of light. The white balls of light they were attacking were all relatively close to Long Yu and the other two. Once they were hit, no one knew what the consequences would be. Long Yu and the others' expressions changed drastically, and they immediately took action. With Red Oriole in tow, Moon Song used Starflash in the 9 firmaments and teleported far away from the white balls of light. She only stopped when she was even further away from the white balls of light than the aliens themselves. Even though Long Yu had the ability to transform into nothingness, he didn't dare face the white balls of light head-on. After all, this was a trial left behind by a god. It was very possible that he wouldn't be able to escape even if he transformed into nothingness. Therefore, he activated the Void Nether Dragon Blade and teleported to the other side of the room, avoiding the nearby white balls of light. Seeing how Long Yu and the other two had reacted so quickly and distanced themselves from the white balls of light, the foreign races were somewhat shocked. They immediately retracted their hands, no longer continuing to attack the white balls of light. Immediately afterward, the three sovereigns turned around and prepared to attack Consort Yu together. Immortal energy and demonic energy erupted from Consort Yu's body at the same time, producing an extremely powerful destructive force that forced the remaining seventh phase sovereign back. Then, black and white energy revolved around her body, blocking the combined attack of the four sovereigns. Even with the four sovereigns working together, they couldn't break through Consort Yu's defense. However, Long Yu knew that Consort Yu's defense wouldn't last for long. After all, the two 7th phase sovereigns were also peak 7th phase sovereigns. They were only a step away from becoming demigod. Go back and help. Long Yu nodded at Red Oriole and Moon Song, who were some distance away. Then, he activated the Void Nether Dragon Blade and appeared near Consort Yu in a flash. Then, he condensed the water-type Genesis power near Consort Yu. Void Burial. The reason why he had condensed the Void Burial in that place was because it was so powerful. It could be used to stop the other three sovereigns from attacking Consort Yu. The Void Burial quickly erupted, separating Consort Yu from the other three sovereigns. Then, Long Yu raised his hand and used the 12 Star Palaces, a Grade 2 divine formation, to temporarily imprison the three sovereigns. If it was the sovereigns of the same realm as Long Yu, they would need at least a few days to get out. However, these three foreign races all had extremely high martial Dao realms, and there were even 7th phase great rulers among them. Even if they were to directly break through the 12-star palace's bindings, they would only need 1 or 2 breaths' time at most. However, 1 or 2 breaths of time was more than enough. Although Long Yu's martial Dao realm was a little low, he had too many tricks up his sleeve. At any time, he could use a powerful technique to deal with the current situation. For example, at this moment, after he used the 12-star palaces to imprison the 3 sovereigns, the rest would be much easier to deal with. Demon Shadow Binding. Red Oriole rushed over and used the Grade 1 Divine Formation on the remaining 7th phase sovereign. Her cultivation was only at the 5th phase sovereign, so the effect of restraining the 7th phase sovereign wouldn't be as good. However, she could at least immobilize it for 3 breaths of time. After all, Red Oriole's Demon Shadow Binding was much more effective against a single target than Long Yu using the 12-star palaces to immobilize 3 sovereigns. 3 breaths of time was more than enough. If Red Oriole was fighting these sovereigns alone, she might not be able to kill them in 3 breaths of time. However, they still had Consort Yu with them. When she saw that the sovereigns had been restrained, Consort Yu didn't hesitate at all. She raised her hand, and a ray of light that was a mixture of immortal chi and devil chi suddenly erupted from the void. With a loud bang, it instantly landed on the body of the 7th phase sovereign that was restrained by the Demon Shadow Binding. The explosion of the black and white light instantly produced an extremely powerful destructive power. Long Yu subconsciously retreated far away to avoid the explosive power. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would be killed by the shockwaves. The power of this move could be said to be something that even Long Yu had rarely seen. Apart from when he faced the demigods of the Outsiders, he really hadn't seen such a powerful attack. It was very clear that compared to when they went to the ancient ruins of the multi-winged race, Consort Yu's strength was much more tyrannical. This move was probably one of Consort Yu's innate divine abilities. Moreover, it was an innate divine ability that had fused the essence of power into it. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to be so powerful that it could almost destroy the physical body of the 7th phase sovereign in a single move. The grape-like physical body exploded under the explosion of the black and white light. The sovereigns subconsciously wanted to conjure a defensive barrier, but they were restrained by the Demon Shadow Binding and couldn't use the power in their body. It was definitely too late for them to break free of the Demon Shadow Binding. The sovereign's physical body exploded, but their mind and soul still existed. Moreover, the power of light blue divine characters started to appear all over their bodies, continuously regenerating and reconstructing their bodies. Unfortunately, the speed at which the sovereign's physical body was reconstructing was too slow. Forget the current Long Yu, it was much slower than the current Moon Song and Red Oriole. It was impossible for them to completely reconstruct their bodies in battle. Consort Yu raised her hand and revealed 9 nether divine characters. It was also a technique that could destroy the mind and soul. Since the sovereign's physical body was already destroyed, it was too easy to destroy the sovereign's soul. Although the 3 sovereigns had already come out of the 12-star palaces, they couldn't protect the sovereigns in time. Even though the 3 sovereigns teleported over and conjured a defensive barrier, they were still a step too late. Consort Yu's movements were simply too fast. She didn't even need any time to condense her devil aura. In an instant, the sovereign's soul was destroyed. A peak 7th phase sovereign realm expert died, just like that. At this time, a teleportation array appeared in the center of the space. It was obvious that this teleportation array could lead to the next trial or treasure room. As expected, the death of a sovereigns could open a passage. When the teleportation array appeared, the 4 people and the 3 sovereigns moved almost simultaneously. Since the teleportation array was located in the center of the room, it was surrounded by constantly moving white balls of light. No one knew what would happen if they touched the white balls of light. Therefore, it was impossible for them to teleport to the side of the teleportation array. The 7 of them flew towards the center of the room at almost the same time. At the same time, they dodged the constantly dancing white balls of light. Berserk Battle Divine Steps. Long Yu used this technique to increase his movement speed. It wasn't teleportation. Therefore, Long Yu was able to easily pass through the white balls of light and arrive near the teleportation array. Regardless of whether it was Long Yu's group of 4 or the 3 outsiders, all of them wanted to be the first to reach the teleportation formation, and then directly teleport away. The remaining people would directly attack the white balls of light in the field. If that happened, those who couldn't reach the teleportation array in time would most likely die. Unfortunately, although there was a difference in speed between the 7 of them, the difference was not huge. Long Yu and the outsider who had comprehended lightning divine characters arrived at the teleportation formation at almost the same time. Under such circumstances, neither side could attack the white orbs behind them. Furthermore, the area around the teleportation formation was where the white orbs were the densest. It was impossible for either side to start a fight. Although Long Yu had participated in the slaughter of such an alien before, this was the first time he had gotten so close to it. He could sense the violent aura of thunder divine characters emanating from this alien's body, as well as the surging purple blood within its body. Up close, this alien race member was slightly taller than the average human, but not by much. It had no arms or legs, and its entire body was made up of grape-like organs that contained extremely powerful divine text power. As it turned out, it didn't matter how they looked. What mattered was the power of the divine text they had comprehended, as well as their uses. Clearly, this alien race was much more cooperative than the Ice God race or the Fire God race. From the battle just now, it could be seen that this alien race had excellent teamwork, similar to that of humans and Yao. If they had encountered the Ice God race this time, it might have been a bit easier to deal with them than these 4. Let's go to the next stage. Hurry up. Long Yu didn't pay any attention to this alien race member. He directly passed through the teleportation formation. The outsider didn't hesitate either. It passed through the teleportation formation first. Soon, Consort Yu, Moon Song, and Red Oriole all arrived near the teleportation formation. The last to be teleported was Consort Yu. Before she left, her entire body exploded with demonic energy, bombarding the surrounding white balls of light. When one of the white balls of light was bombarded, it actually exploded with terrifying destructive power. This destructive power far surpassed that of a demigod's attack. It wasn't hard to imagine that if anyone had attacked one of the white balls of light, everyone in the room would have died. In the end, the outsider with the divine text of light didn't make it to the teleportation formation. It was clearly buried inside. Killed 2 of the mutated tribe, 20 points added. Consort Yu had profited greatly from this stage. After all, she was the strongest. She had killed 2 aliens, so the rewards were quite good. Chapter 1501. Long Yu first passed through the teleportation formation, then discovered that he had arrived in a room constructed from a white screen of light. This room was completely empty. At first glance, there was nothing inside, but his spiritual sense told Long Yu that there was still some unknown power in the center of this room. If he acted rashly, he would definitely be in deep trouble. Moon Song and Red Oriole followed Long Yu over, followed by Consort Yu. The alien that looked like a bunch of grapes didn't follow them. Before I left, I detonated the white ball of light in that room and killed an alien. Now, I still have a total of 110 points. Consort Yu said to the 3 of them. When Long Yu heard this, a number appeared in his mind, 90. He hadn't killed a single alien, but he had passed through a checkpoint, leaving him with 90 points. Moon Song and Red Oriole were the same. They hadn't killed a single alien, but they had passed through a checkpoint and lost 10 points. If their points returned to 0, they would be teleported out of the eroding moon ancient region. However, as long as they could pass through the checkpoints without dying, they would be able to reach the next region sooner or later. Unless they were as cowardly as Jian Renhao and Shi Wanqing of the Nine Nether Clan and didn't dare to advance, they would only linger in the first region. Of course, Long Yu wouldn't stop here. At least for now, with him and Consort Yu together, their overall combat strength was still quite strong. They wouldn't run into too much danger even if they continued forward. What's with this checkpoint? We can't act rashly. Let's wait and see if any other alien races come over first, Long Yu said in a low voice. He could sense some strange power lingering in the room. If they acted rashly, they might very well trigger this strange power, and no one knew what the consequences would be. The four of them didn't move carelessly, only quietly waiting where they had been teleported from. There should still be 2 of those grape-shaped creatures remaining. However, they weren't teleported to the same room as Long Yu's group. Clearly, the eroding moon ancient region had determined that the remaining 2 creatures were definitely not a match for Long Yu's group of 4. If they were to be teleported to the same room, they would be completely annihilated. Therefore, they had teleported to another place. The 4 of them quietly waited. Gradually, they discovered that the strange power in the room had begun to condensing into a huge boulder in the center of the room. Next, the giant boulder seemed to imitate the appearance of Long Yu's group, gradually transforming into the shape of a human. This made Long Yu's group's hearts tremble. Could it be that they had to defeat this boulder in order to pass this trial in this room? The 4 of them still didn't act rashly, because the situation wasn't very clear. One must know that every trial in the eroding moon ancient region was strange. If they were to act rashly, there might be some problems. As the boulder continued to condense, it quickly transformed into the appearance of a human. It was 3 zhang tall, and the entire white boulder clearly possessed an extremely strong physical strength. A teleportation array appeared beneath the white boulder's feet. At this moment, everyone understood that they definitely had to defeat this boulder, or lure it away. Only then would they be able to pass through the teleportation array and reach the next trial. Basically, after passing through 6 to 7 checkpoints, they would be able to proceed to the next area, which was the advancement area. Therefore, for Long Yu and the others to appear in a checkpoint without any competition from the outsiders, their luck could be considered both good and bad. The good thing was that they didn't have to struggle to pass through this trial. The bad thing was that there were no alien races to fight against, so they wouldn't have the opportunity to kill them and earn points. After passing through this trial, everyone's points would be reduced by 10 points. Actually, it's the same to kill those alien races after reaching the advancement region. Consort Yu said, in the starting region, killing an alien race will only give you 10 points. But in the advancement region, killing any alien race will give you half of the points you have. In other words, if the alien race originally had 100 points, killing it will give us 50 points. It's much more cost-effective than killing the alien races in the starting region. This experience was obviously discovered by the seniors of the human race and the demon race. Ordinary people also knew about it, but it wasn't easy to kill any alien races in the advancement region. In the advancement region, unless one was absolutely sure of winning, even if the alien races encountered each other, they wouldn't necessarily fight with each other, unless they had a grudge against each other. It should be known that 2/3 of the alien races they met in the advancement region were from the other 2 star areas. Normally, they wouldn't have a chance to interact with each other, so they knew nothing about each other's fighting methods. It was the same the other way around. The alien races from the other 2 star areas wouldn't know the fighting methods of the human race and the demon race. They weren't even familiar with the fighting methods of the alien races in the entire Langya star area. As long as they could get through the eroding moon ancient area's trial, the alien races wouldn't fight with each other. At this moment, only Long Yu's group of 4 were in this trial. It wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy either. That white boulder looked a little clumsy, but it wasn't hard to imagine that it wouldn't be slow in a battle. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to use it to guard this trial. I'm going to check it out. You guys stay here and wait for my news. After Concubine Yu finished speaking to the three of them, she flew towards the center of the room. She raised her hand and dense immortal chi and devil chi swirled around her. A powerful black and white aura spread out in all directions around her. The immortal chi condensed into sword chi, while the demon chi condensed into saber light. The white sword chi and the black saber light attacked the white boulder from all directions. This was just a casual attack of Consort used to test the white boulder. However, under Consort Yu's attack, the white boulder instantly had a layer of white light shield. This shield contained the extremely strong water absolute beginning power and some kind of even stronger space divine character power. It should be some kind of space divine character at the enlightenment level. This white shield easily blocked Consort Yu's attack and even reflected it. The sword chi and saber light came from all directions, covering Consort Yu entirely. It's a complete reflection. Consort Yu's expression changed slightly. She quickly retreated, escaping from the attack of her immortal chi and demon chi. She frowned slightly, feeling that this was a bit tricky. The white boulder was actually able to form a complete reflection shield, which surprised her. In this case, it would not be easy to kill the white boulder. It could even be said to be extremely difficult. However, when Long Yu saw this, he narrowed his eyes. From the completely reflected white light shield, he felt the power of the space divine character. Although it was a space divine character at the enlightenment level that surpassed water absolute beginning power, it was still a kind of space divine character. Could the magic power of Path of 9 Underworlds completely disintegrate the space divine character? Let me try, Long Yu said softly. He directly flew towards the white boulder, and then used the magic power of Path of 9 Underworlds. A pitch-black light beam instantly shot towards the white boulder. Then, the white light shield appeared again, trying to reflect Long Yu's pitch-black light beam. Unfortunately, this move of Long Yu's was specially used to disintegrate space divine characters. Although there was only a part of the space divine character in the white light shield, if this part of the space divine character was disintegrated, the entire structure would directly collapse. As a result, the white light shield would definitely not be able to completely reflect the attacks of others. As the Path of 9 Underworlds disintegrated, the white light shield began to dissipate. However, only a part of it dissipated, about 1/3 of it. This meant that the space divine character at the enlightenment level only occupied 1/3 of the shield. Although the power of the remaining 2/3 of the space divine character was very strong, without the 1/3 of the space divine character, the overall effect could not be exerted at all. In almost an instant, Consort Yu's white sword chi and black blade light continued to sweep over, easily shattering the white light shield. Then, she condensed the immortal demonic chi, and the black and white mist swirled around, forming a black and white shock wave the next moment. The next moment, it landed on the white boulder. As it turned out, apart from the shield that completely reflected the attack, the white boulder didn't have anything special about it. It was directly shattered by Consort Yu's move. That's pretty easy. Let's go. Long Yu waved his hand, and immediately had the three women follow him. He himself took the lead and stepped into the teleportation array. Then, with a flash of white light, he was transported to another room. The other three women, Consort Yu, Moon Song, and Red Oriole, followed closely behind. Clearly, the three women hadn't expected that this stage would become so easy after Long Yu made his move. It seemed that many of the stages in the eroding moon ancient region could indeed be achieved through tricks and not absolute strength. After easily clearing the white boulder stage, Consort Yu still had 100 points left, while Long Yu, Moon Song, and Red Oriole only had 80 points left. Seeing their points dwindle, everyone was a little displeased. However, there was no point in being displeased. All they could do was continue forward and hope that the next stage would be filled with alien races for them to kill. Of course, it was worth noting that even if other alien races did appear, the eroding moon ancient region determined that they were about as strong as the 4 of them. It definitely wouldn't be easy to kill them. The next stage had appeared. When Long Yu opened his eyes, he discovered that he had actually arrived in a huge, pitch-black space. This space was dotted with small white dots of light. Long Yu subconsciously counted and discovered that there were a total of 12 white dots of light in this pitch-black space, constantly swimming around. Chapter 1502. Very soon, Consort Yu and the other 2 girls followed Long Yu over and discovered the 12 white spots of light in the pitch-black space. The 12 spots of light were very small. As they swam around in the pitch-black space, they looked like 12 tiny fireflies. If the entire space had not been pitch-black, most people would not have been able to detect these 12 white spots of light. Be careful. There's the aura of other foreign tribes in this place. Very soon, Long Yu's expression darkened. He could not see anything else apart from the 12 white spots of light with his naked eye. However, he had enhanced himself with the light of equalization, and his spiritual awareness had increased tenfold. He finally detected the aura of other foreign tribes in this space. Be careful! At this moment, Consort Yu and Red Oriole shouted at almost the same time. Among them, Concubine Yu's martial Tao realm was high, so her spiritual sense perception was extremely strong. As for Red Oriole, she cultivated in balanced control and had also blessed herself with the balanced light. The 2 women's spiritual sense perception was many times stronger than Long Yu's. Long Yu could only detect the aura of other foreign tribes in the area. However, the 2 girls had already sensed that other foreign tribes were launching a sneak attack on the 4 of them. Illusory realm. Long Yu did not hesitate at all. When the 2 girls shouted, "Be careful," at the same time, he did not immediately transform into nothingness. Instead, he immediately activated the Grade 1 God formation, the illusory realm. This was because Long Yu knew that the warning might not be directed at him. It could also be directed at Moon Song. In any case, Long Yu was not the only one in danger now. It was the 4 of them. Therefore, the illusory realm was much better than transforming into nothingness alone. When the illusory realm was constructed, under Long Yu's control, he, Consort Yu, Red Oriole, and Moon Song all transformed into nothingness at almost the same time. Simply put, the Grade 1 God formation was so powerful because it could be controlled to transform into nothingness. Long Yu could turn others into nothingness, but after turning into nothingness, they would be unable to move, attack, or defend. Moreover, he could even turn this space into nothingness. Of course, the more things Long Yu turned into nothingness, the more energy he consumed. Just turning the 4 of them into nothingness had consumed almost half of his energy. However, the effect of this move was also obvious. After Long Yu displayed the illusory field, some gray liquid appeared from all directions and fell in the direction where the 4 of them were originally. Although he had turned into nothingness, Long Yu could still sense the powerful corrosive properties of the gray liquid. If he came into contact with it, he would be severely injured even if he did not die. Moreover, this gray liquid was somewhat familiar to Long Yu. The divine water race? Long Yu thought so. Unfortunately, in the state of nothingness, he could not communicate with any of the 3 women, so he could only guess. The divine water race was one of the 3 major alien races near the Void Galaxy. Around the Void Galaxy, there were 3 races: the divine water race, the Silverstone race, and the Soul race. Among them, the individual of the divine water race was a gray liquid the size of a fist. Moreover, Long Yu had traveled all over the Langya Galaxy for a month and indeed did not see any other race that would use a gray corrosive liquid like the divine water race to attack. This gray corrosive liquid was condensed from some kind of shadow attribute divine text and integrated with the water primordial power. Its destructive power was extremely strong. If it suddenly launched a sneak attack, very few people would be able to avoid it. However, it was a pity that Long Yu had immediately used the illusory field and dodged this sneak attack. Then, since the other party launched a sneak attack, it could not be considered as being in the dark. With a thought, Long Yu directly turned the sneak attack of the gray liquid into a state of nothingness, and then removed himself, Consort Yu, and the other two women from the state of nothingness. In this way, the gray liquid completely lost its corrosive and offensive power and became a thing of nothingness. Moreover, maintaining this power in the state of nothingness did not consume too much of Long Yu's energy. At least, he could maintain the state of nothingness for at least an hour after taking an elixir. When the four of them recovered from the state of nothingness, the first thing they did was to find the people of the divine water race hidden in this dark space. According to the distribution rules of the eroding moon ancient region, there should be 4 individuals in this batch of people of the divine water race. In this aspect, Long Yu and Moon Song could not be of much help. However, Red Oriole and Consort Yu were definitely very good at finding people. Although they were not looking for people, but for the foreign races of the divine water race, the principle was still the same. Red Oriole immediately made deductions based on the gray corrosive liquid that attacked them. Because the other party was in this space and they were very close, the deduction speed was also very fast. In almost 2 breaths, Red Oriole had already deduced the other party's location. Consort Yu was even more direct. Snow-white immortal energy directly erupted and filled the entire pitch-black space. As a result, the 12 small white light spots in the pitch-black space directly disappeared. The pitch-black space became white, and the silhouettes of the 4 divine water race immediately appeared. At the same time, the gray liquid on the 4 divine water races' bodies once again erupted. The gray liquid that filled the sky was like a waterfall that once again covered the 4 of them. Illusory realm. Illusory. Long Yu raised his hand, directly dissolving the gray liquid into nothingness. Although he had expended a lot of energy on this trip, it was clear that the 4 divine aquatics had expended a lot more energy than he had. 2 peak 7th stage sovereigns, 1 5th stage sovereign, and 1 6th stage sovereign. Their overall strength is similar to the 4 foreign races that looked like purple grapes from before. When the other party revealed itself, everyone could immediately see the strength of the other party. They secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At least after discovering the traces of the other party, the 4 of them felt much less uneasy. You guys attack. Leave the defense to me. After Long Yu finished speaking to the 3 women, his eyes flashed with a hint of brilliance. The surrounding space had already fallen into the shroud of the illusory domain. As long as he willed it, he would be able to turn anything into nothingness. A grade 1 god formation like this would be an extremely powerful tool in a group battle. When the other party attacked, Long Yu could directly turn it into nothingness, making it impossible for the other party to attack. When his side was attacked, Long Yu could also turn his side into nothingness and avoid the other party's attack. As long as Long Yu's energy wasn't used up, the people on his side were practically invincible. Of course, the 4 divine water races members weren't idiots. They quickly discovered Long Yu's trick and prepared to destroy the illusory realm. 2 of the 4 divine water races members continuously blocked the attacks from Consort Yu and the others, while the other 2 charged towards Long Yu. One of the divine water races members, who was at the peak of the 7th phase sovereign realm, directly unleashed a spiritual shock wave at Long Yu. This spiritual shock wave was extremely powerful. Even some 6th phase sovereigns and ordinary 7th phase sovereigns would suffer a huge mental impact if they were to receive this attack head-on. At the very least, they wouldn't be able to react for a few breaths of time. However, it was a pity that Long Yu had cultivated the worldly purification physique. Furthermore, he had imprinted the worldly purification physique's 198 mysterious patterns in his mind. Long Yu's resistance to spiritual shock was already very strong, let alone now. Worldly purification soul mirror. Since the other party had launched a spiritual attack, there was no need for Long Yu to hide it. He immediately activated the worldly purification soul mirror and reflected the other party's spiritual shock wave. The spiritual shock wave instantly shattered the void and appeared in front of the two Divine Water Races members. The seventh phase Sovereign Realm Divine Water Races member seemed to have sensed danger and directly dodged to the side. However, the fifth phase Sovereign Realm Divine Water Races member was in a miserable state. It was directly hit by the spiritual shock wave that was 10 times stronger than before. Its entire mind was instantly destroyed and its soul withered away. This meant that it was directly dead. Of course, blocking such a spiritual shock wave was also very stressful for Long Yu. Although the spiritual shock wave that the worldly purification soul mirror had endured was reflected back, it had also directly consumed all the energy within Long Yu's body. This caused Long Yu to have no choice but to directly consume an elixir. The elixirs that he had on him were all the same kind of elixir. If it was anyone else, it would be impossible for them to continuously consume elixirs to recover their energy. This was because every time they consumed an elixir a second time or more, the recovery effect would be reduced by half. However, this didn't matter to Long Yu. After consuming this elixir, when he had free time, he could completely self-detonate his fleshly body and rely on the Devil Dust Heart to reconstruct his fleshly body. After consuming the same elixir again, there wouldn't be any reduction in the recovery effect. However, this also meant that in the same battle, Long Yu couldn't continuously consume elixirs to recover his energy. Otherwise, the effects would diminish. And in the battle, if Long Yu chose to self-detonate his fleshly body, it was very likely that his opponent would seize the opportunity to launch a wave of attacks. This would cause him to not even have the chance to reconstruct his fleshly body. This kind of danger absolutely couldn't be taken. After consuming the elixir, Long Yu's energy had mostly recovered. At this time, one of the fifth phase Sovereign Realm Divine Water Races members had already been killed by their own spiritual shock wave. On the other side, Consort Yu and the two women were dealing with the two Divine Water Races members. They weren't at a disadvantage at all. In fact, they were even able to easily suppress their opponent. The Divine Water Race mainly used Shadow-type divine characters and some divine characters derived from Water-type primordial power. Basically, they were a mixture of divine characters and extremely corrosive. One had to be very careful when dealing with them. However, under the protection of Long Yu's illusory domain, Consort Yu and the others only needed to constantly attack. No matter what methods the opponents used, they wouldn't be able to harm Consort Yu and the others unless it was a spiritual attack. However, after Long Yu's world-cleansing soul mirror displayed its power, the opponents didn't dare to use any more spiritual attacks. Who knew if this group of people could use the world-cleansing soul mirror? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.